Chantal Akerman is a Belgian director who is considered a pioneer of the feminist avant-garde. One of a wave of experimental directors in the second half of the 20th century, she was inspired to become a director after seeing Godard's Pierrot le Fou.
Je n'avais jamais vu, je ne savais pas qui était Godard, aucune idée. Je savais à peine qu'il existait un cinéma d'auteur. Quand j'allais au cinéma, j'allais voir La Grande Vadrouille ou les films de Walt Disney, enfin, c'est juste pour s'amuser, pour sortir en bande, pour manger des ice cream, mais certainement pas pour avoir un choc émotionnel ou pour voir une œuvre d'art. Je ne savais pas que le cinéma pouvait être une œuvre d'art. Et donc, je rentre dans ce film parce que le titre me plaisait, Pierrot le Fou. Et j'ai vu ce film et c'était quelque chose de tellement autre, tellement différent, j'avais l'impression qu'il me parlait à moi, que c'était de la poésie.
The same night she watched it at just 15 years old, she decided to become a film director. Her debut film, Hotel Monterey, in 1972, was a silent documentary which used long takes and meticulous staging to create optical illusions. Her first critically acclaimed film, J'ai tu il elle, in 1974, is a drawn-out story of a young girl beginning with So I Left. Julie lives alone in her room, eats sugar out of the bag, writes letters, and rearranges her furniture. She then leaves and hitchhikes with a man who takes her to a bar, monologues about his life, and she gives him a hand job. In the final third of the film, Julie visits an ex-girlfriend who tells her she must leave in the morning, and then they make love for 15 minutes. Julie then leaves, bringing the film around full circle. Tonight, though, we are talking about Jeanne Dielman, 23, Quai du Commerce, 1420, Bruxelles.
And so she thought that she would just film this woman for 3 months, for 3 days. 3 days of the life of a woman, and she didn't know much more. And it's while doing it, and even after, that she realized all the subjects that it crosses, this film. And I think that's why it's so strong, and that's why even when you're 12 years old, you feel things. It's because it's very, very full of many, many paths. And it's a film, you could say, about a woman. It's not a portrait, but it's a film about a woman. It's a film about anguish also, about how you fight against it and how you build the time to have things to do, to not to be swollen by anguish. It's a film about feminism, about potatoes, about time, really it's Chantal's mother loved this film, and in particularly she loved the scene with the potatoes. She said that it was so strong and everything was in this scene.
Si vous voulez, elle a organisé son temps de manière à ne pas laisser de trou. Et au bout de à la fin de la deuxième journée, tout cet univers très organisé va commencer insidieusement à se dérégler. Et à ce moment-là, il y aura un trou dans son horaire qui laissera place à l'angoisse.
À la réflexion.
It was filmed over the course of 5 weeks with a crew of all women, which Chantal later said was a disaster because she didn't pick the women, and anyone who wanted to join the crew could. It was paid for with a grant of $100,000 from the Belgian government. Chantal's mother, with whom she was extremely close, even committing suicide a year after her mother died, said this was her favorite film that her daughter made. Much of Chantal's work revolved around her mother, a Holocaust survivor, and even subconsciously, this film reflects that.
Je ne sais pas si lui envoyer un film comme Jeanne Dielman au visage était si généreux que ça, parce qu'en fait, c'est vrai qu'elle s'y est reconnue, ainsi que toutes mes tantes, ainsi que plein de gens de cette génération-là, de plein de gens de ce milieu-là, des femmes.
Much of this film is purposefully banal and minimalist, and although it didn't immediately catch on in Belgium, it quickly became a European cult classic. Jeanne Dielman was the first feature directed by a woman to top the Sight and Sound Greatest Film of All Time poll. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Botanic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Right now, Conan is working on Caterwaul 2023. Caterwaul Music Festival is going to be in Minneapolis from May 26th to 29th. Tickets are on sale now at caterwaul.org. Christina Oakes, when she's not dog sitting, you can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at @cosmopolitics. Throw her some subs on Twitch. Jeanne Dielman, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Matthew Film Guy Weiss, feature film editor, editor of 2020's Black Bear, Majority Report's chief film critic at Lee Sertiller Sam Cedar Pitch, and runs a weekly film discussion group at Common Point Queens, which you can join virtually right now. I, of course, am your no longer suffering after getting the tooth pulled host, Forrest Miller, Movie Night Extravaganza's intro master, and poor man's wealthy dilettante. Let's let her rip.
Wow. This is, saying the quiet part out loud, apparently. All right.
I just remembered I have something.
Oh, yeah. I got that. You got that thing. The thing that you were, the thing.
It just reminded me, yeah. No, good luck with that. He may want to downgrade. I don't know.
Matthew, welcome back. It's a great
Thank you. I feel really warm welcome here. I'm really happy to be back. I'm glad I did this. I have no regrets whatsoever. Good to see you all.
I know. Yeah. I have nothing to do with these intros, by the way.
Well, you get to be the milk on the table. So I mean, that's it's a high honored position.
What else is on the table? Steak.
I feel like I'm over the sugar bowl, but I don't know. Whatever you think.
This is a push as far as like the kind of movies normally push. We do a lot of different kinds of films, and we do art house fare. This may be the most arty art house movie I think that we've ever done. And I'm not sorry about that at all. I'm glad we're doing it, but it is remarkable. I was familiar with Chantal Akerman before. Because I, of course, I'm a scholar and have wonderful taste. But when Sight and Sound named this as the #1 movie of all time, I was amongst like, huh, really? Like, I mean, I was like pleasantly surprised. Didn't have like a Paul Schrader like reaction, but it did kind of surprise me a little bit. And then that launched Jeanne Dielman. Which also, can we just say that like one of the most daunting titles of all time because it's the whole sentence.
I don't want to tell you how many takes it took to say the whole sentence.
You're really glad you're pre-recording those intros, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've literally never even attempted to say the whole address. I don't speak French, so I just call it Jeanne Dielman, and I call it good.
Yes.
I figured though, if I was going to do a recorded intro, I needed to say it one time. So like, I don't know. It's like
get it once, and that's enough. But I think that
you're trying acid. You do it once. You're like, I've done that. I've said the entire Jeanne Dielman, the sentence. It's done.
I've said your dang words.
I've crossed it off my bucket list.
Big Army of Darkness energy there. But it's interesting because I think Chantal Akerman is definitely a film nerd director, right? Like it's sort of the folks that know Chantal Akerman is like shorthand, like, oh, you're deep in this, you know your stuff. You're into like the more stuff that's not even just the standard fair estate stuff, and it's always exciting when something gets a moment in the sun that otherwise would not get a moment in the sun, right? And so that and the controversy of look, we deal with like these controversies every day. Most of them are terrible. Most of them I don't want to know anything about. That controversy was great. So it's like, hey, at least they're talking about movies. I mean, Jesus.
Right.
But
not like the casting choices of the racial makeup of the movies,
like Taika Waititi's Kira or something, you know.
They made the potato woke. Yeah, but Matthew, I'm curious because you were because I was a Chantal Akerman fan before, but I actually had not seen this one because this was sort of like a white whale for a lot of folks, film length. And it's not that I was like, oh, I don't want to see that. I was like, no, I do want to see that, but I need to set aside enough time to see that and be fully engaged with it. But I think this is like your third time seeing it or something, right?
Yeah, I think it's actually my fourth. I have tickets that I saved from two of them, but I think the first time I saw it, I didn't save the ticket. But we're going back at least 20 something years, because when I came to New York, I was looking for a screening of this, because at that time it wasn't even available on home video. It only came out on a Belgian DVD set in I think 2009. Wow. And then finally it came out on Blu-ray I think in 2012. So the only way to see this for years was waiting around for the Museum of the Moving Image, or I think it was the Museum of Modern Art where I saw it first. But all the discussion of its place on the Sight and Sound poll aside for a minute, which I'm sure we'll want to dive into, I was interested in Chantal Akerman because Jim Jarmusch name dropped her. It was
That's right.
somebody that I came into it being a Jim Jarmusch fan, and he said, well, I owe so much to, I think she maybe even taught him at NYU. I can't remember if that's 100% true, but his thesis film, Permanent Vacation, was very much indebted to her, and I maybe even dedicated in the screen to her. But regardless, it was his, through his uber film nerddom that I learned of it and sought it out. And, it is one of those accomplishment movies, like you made it through, but it's not necessarily even the most of that. Like, I've also seen
you made it through, here's your trophy.
Exactly. But there's ones that put it to shame too. There's Satan's Tango, which is 7 hours, and Our Hitler, which is like 8 hours. So it's, all those things about it are interesting, and definitely I'd say like what I think you're describing, a bar to entry in a way. But part of what I even really want to say when we get into discussing the movie is that I don't know to what extent it's even as easily apprehendable on a screen where you're basically looking at it. So, I mean, it's hard to disprove a negative, and like say like, because you can't do the experiment. Once you've seen it on a small screen, what would it be like on a big screen? But I just know from my point of view, I'm not the most, I don't have the greatest power to focus it to start with. And this movie tests you. And one of the things that blows me away about it is that it is actually kind of like a forced meditation. Once you give over to it and you are able to zone in, and it's hard to zone in, it actually is taking you into its frequency. And I don't know if I would have been able to love it the way I eventually did if I was at home, God forbid, even with my phone or anything else to look at. So, that you can't really separate a discussion of the meaning and the value of this movie with what it's asking you to do, that test that you're alluding to.
Yeah, and seeing it with you in the theater, or like 3/4 of it at least, it was the worst time for me to actually be doing that, because I just had gotten that tooth pulled like 2 days before, and like I'm on a crazy dose of antibiotics, so like I was running to the bathroom over and over again throughout the entire 3.5 hours. But But like watching it on a screen, like a giant screen, is very different, because I watched it then after that on my laptop screen, not my laptop itself. I have like a second screen that's, it's bigger, and it's like one of those.
He watched it on his phone on the bus with no headphones in, just going. Yeah,
I mean, maybe
as movies are meant to be.
You put your phone right here.
Yeah.
But no,
those medium shots really pop on the iPhone. Let me tell you.
I have my second art screen, but like the quality of it on the Criterion channel thing is like 720. It's not like it was so crisp and clear, and the spatial elements of it, and the focus, like in the actual filming, right? Like watching it on a screen, you really did feel like you're looking into like a three-dimensional portrait almost, right? Like
an actual house.
Yeah, like rather than on the screen, I was noticing over and over again, I wasn't feeling the same the same amount of drawn into it that I did watching it on a giant screen in front of me at the Museum of the Moving Image, which has the giant like the big screen that has the good stuff, right? Like
well, I like to say it's the difference between looking at it and seeing it. It's right. when it doesn't take up your peripheral vision and you're able to see other elements, objects, whatever, it changes your ability to focus. It just can't be helped.
Which is one of the reasons that why when pandemic hit, one of the few sort of creature comfort expenses that I actually allowed myself is when we were replacing the TV, we got what I can only really characterize as a preposterously large television with a preposterously high frame rate and all that, and it takes up an entire wall practically, and it's awesome. Nice. And I actually did that, if I remember correctly. I did that before I was even like a co-host on this show, but it was one of the things where I think I'm gonna be watching a lot of movies the way things are going with this COVID. So
now it's a write-off.
Yeah, exactly. The system works, people. But I think that you said something very important too. The distraction, right? Like we live in a very distractible time. Everything's meant to be pulling focus and like pulling your attention away. And this is the only way this film works is if you're just deep in it. Like you have to be so deep in it that like you're it feels like you're in the room. That again, like what's it like when a spoon drops? You're like, oh my god. Dropped a spoon.
It was exciting.
I think the first notice that I had that she was kind of losing it is the button.
Button, yeah. You're like,
and
whoa.
And that felt very like it felt off-putting. Like it felt very, very off-putting in the sense of like, like this is like something's just off.
This isn't like her. She's not normally like this. Yeah, exactly.
And I've gotten to know her quite a bit, I think, at this point over the last couple of days.
The audience that Forrest, that you and I saw it with, there was a lot of people coming in and out. It wasn't quite as locked in as other audiences I've seen before. Like you were not alone by any means with people having to come and go. And but
we
in
all got
other
filled before the screening, right? All of us in the audience, and we didn't invite you. We didn't think you'd want to lose a tooth, but
it was like when I saw True Grit in rural Tennessee. There was somebody missing teeth at that theater.
But the point I'm making is I've actually been in screenings where if and this is how I've pitched it to people, if you can watch it with any kind of attention for the first about 90 minutes where you start to sort of get in her groove and the film sort of starts to have you notice these little things, by the time they start to go wrong and you suddenly realize like, oh, it's not necessarily a story, it's these little moments of attention that are starting to fall apart that are telling you this quote unquote story. And I've seen it with some audiences that were so locked in that by the time she picks up that plate while she's making the meatloaf and the milk bottle goes like woo for a second and she has to grab it, the audience gasps like Freddy Krueger jumps out. Like
yeah.
So it to me, this is what I've always maintained is the genius of this movie. Quite apart from all the ideas we can talk about that it has, feminism, capitalism, family, trauma, OCD, all these great things that are in it. The way it actually works on your mind, that to me is what justifies it being so highly regarded. Number one, the use of the medium to do something to you that is akin to a forced meditation, sort of like training wheels to sort of meditate onto these little things that start to become meaningful. That is genius. And of course, it started this kind of slow cinema movement, and it has its own antecedents too. But the marriage of form and content in this movie is so genius, integral, like so powerful in a way that I had never seen any other movie do before. And I love, you know, Tarkovsky and Ozu and Bresson, all these people who use the medium in their own really inimitable way and different way. But just the duration, the length, the things that it asks you to do in order to understand it, that to me is the whole point of this movie.
And I think it's insane when they ramp that up. And there's a couple moments where they do, like, but the moment that they most clearly ramp it up, if you're in a theater and you don't have access to like the volume control, right, is when she picks up the baby and the baby will not stop crying, and she picks up the baby like 3 separate times, and that screech, if you're in a place where you can't like it makes you want to kind of claw out your ears. Yeah, it's like the sound of a cat that's being.
I don't want kids.
And
and obviously, as the parent here, I could tell immediately that baby needed a shit and was being constipated at that moment.
The baby really needs to go. It's like, we need to get one more baby scream. Can you?
Well, I edited a movie with a lot of baby crying, and believe me, it is a test of your patience, and it's a sound that we're not programmed to enjoy in any way. But if you notice, Forrest, you remember the audience was laughing. That was like the biggest laugh of the whole screening, practically. Although there was a lot of, this is a movie where you don't really know whether to laugh or not in some places, and it's interesting to see with the audience. But that baby crying was like, I thought, the biggest expression from the audience the entire 3 hours.
It's like, well, I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. It's like some people laugh for like other reasons.
Right.
Well,
tension release.
Yeah. And I think it, like, because I laughed when the baby was crying, like by the 3rd or 4th time when she picked up the baby, I was like laughing really hard. But I was thinking about it. It's almost like, I mean, it's a response to like kind of knowing a director is testing you, number one, but number two, also like the sound of the baby crying and wanting to kind of block that out and like release the tension as like a tension valve, because it's such a deep.
And also, if you remember, the baby only cries when she picks it up, when she puts it down. So everything she does to address its needs, she makes worse. So that kind of dark irony, I think, is actually kind of funny. But yeah, there was a lot of things that happened. I mean, look, I felt the sort of desire to laugh even this 4th time around when, and maybe even more so, noticing other things that I hadn't before. When you see her little OCD things and like I admit to being like partially OCD, never like maybe formally diagnosed, but like the way she touches things when she walks out, the way she, has to do things the exact same way. Some of those things are just funny as a kind of a recognition, but they're also, very sad and very, indicative of a problem too. So it's a lot of layered feelings there.
I have a question. Have you ever taken drugs before you watch this movie? Because like, I want to know the people who stare at the camera. No, like when there's a long shots where these people are actually like staring at the cameras they're walking by, like would that freak you out on the big screen?
Well, I've never done like hallucinogenics, but I've taken Adderall to watch this movie. I think it probably.
Hey, I did that
out at the door.
I did that twice this week.
Yeah, if ever there was a movie that it was a prescription for, it's this, because it
handing out of the door. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I always say to people, like, have 2 strong cups of coffee, but even then you're staying on some things that are happening for so long. Like at this point, watching her make the meatloaf or watching her peel the potatoes, that's action. There's other scenes where she's just sitting, right? Yes. And then the sort of the next level of attention is you have to look at her face, because the other thing that I think is important about this movie is Delphine Seyrig doing what I like to start calling a wordless monologue. Things are happening to her. She's having feelings. She's having reactions, but they are so subtle and so underplayed, if you will, that it really requires the finest of attention. You can kind of lose the thread. And I'm thinking especially of that final shot where she goes through this whole series of very minor, but really lots of waves of different reactions that if you're sort of not really focused, it just seems like she's just blandly sitting there. But there are other scenes that are almost similar where she's just waiting or, just walking, that your mind can tend to wander. And, I always think
she took that final scene and she put it in a museum, separated it from the rest of the film, and just took that separate scene and projected that on a screen nonstop at an art museum at one point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It was called something like "Woman Who Was Just Killed" or something like that, and it was just. And she didn't have the murder part. She didn't have any of the previous part. It was just that reaction playing on an endless loop in a museum.
Wow, when was that?
Yeah, that sounds great. It also just reminds me that, like, I mean, that scene is homaged in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, with Celine Sciamma has gone on and on saying that it's not the same.
Spoiler
it's
alert?
not the same.
Okay.
It's not really the same.
I'm still waiting to see that. Go on.
But she's a huge fan of Akerman and has like gone on record as saying so. And I didn't realize they'll see that scene. I was like, oh, okay, cool. She's like, that was an homage to that scene, because there is just like, I think this movie, like, like, look, we've done both the new Dune. Not new metal new, but new Dune. And we've done I guess they call it the De Laurentiis Dune, at least Lynch wants you to call that, where they do like the narrate, like where you hear the internal monologue and it's like, the whisper, which I think is actually a cool effect. I think a lot of filmmakers would have had some of that interior monologue that you're talking about, Matthew. And then like that would have been in the film, and you would have, and that takes away all of the mystery of it, but probably makes a more accessible film, but a lesser work of art, because you have to kind of figure out, like, again, through these small actions, like again, we talked about day 3, she misses the button. You're like, whoa, what's going on? What's wrong? Oh, her hair doesn't look like it's put together as it normally is. Like, and then when you see that shot of this same kitchen that we've been looking at for hours, but it's from a different angle, like, where the hell is she? What's going on? What's happening? And it's like, oh, it's just the same room, but it's a different shot. Okay, all right, well, yeah, something's different. All right,
everybody, calm down.
Yeah, Conan, it's I totally appreciate the impulse to look at this movie of like, what is it doing that most movies don't do, or what is it not doing that most movies do? That is a natural reaction to this, and I think it's sort of freakish that Chantal Akerman, this is really like her first or second feature. It's like
she's like 25 or something.
Yeah,
she made this,
and she sort of came fully formed with this aesthetic and this, the courage and the insight to do this. And I think it is connected to that really great clip for us that you played, where she says, like, I didn't even know about movies as art until I was like much older. She wasn't trying to remake her favorite moments or even thinking of the language of cinema in a received way. So she was coming to it with this unique vision, this complete and total like blank canvas. And wasn't interested in
like earlier in that clip, she's like, I watch, Disney movies with my friends and stuff, but like that's the extent of it until she saw, Godard and realized that cinema could be more than just that. So I have a few clips from the documentary of them making this.
Yeah, the documentary is great. I find that very fascinating.
It is incredible. And you'll hear her talking about what she doesn't want and fighting Seyrig, who is as genius as she is, was looking for a more mundane,
a traditional, she's a movie star.
I want to understand why this is. And she says, well, I don't want to tell you, and that's like, what?
Yeah. Well, she later became a director herself, and her movie is about, like her documentary has Chantal Akerman in it. As well as Jane Fonda and a bunch of other people talking about the expectations that get put on actresses, which is kind of
it's called 80 for Brady, right? Is that what it's called?
And also, this is the same year she did India Song, which is another India Song is another weird one by what's her name, Marguerite Duras, and they're both weird. So Seyrig deserves credit for enabling these unique artists, women too.
Yeah.
All right, roll it.
Bien. Alors, je viens. Je dis du mal, non. Je vais commencer depuis l'entrée. Voilà, il y a du café. Je m'en sers pas plus que ça. Non. Voilà. Bon. Et ça, pour le plan commence quand je reviens avec le. C'est ça. Il y avait du lait aussi. Attends, je vais changer. Ah oui. Ça renverse un peu. S'assoit. Ça renverse et tu le goûtes. Tu vas le jeter dans les vies. Tu rinces. Tu vas prendre une petite tasse. Tu vas prendre une petite tasse, tu renifles le lait. C'est cool, je crois qu'il faudra que tu te baisses. Alors, tu te renverses du café. Tu verses le lait blanc. La café de sucre. Tu prends deux que tu compares. Moi, je les mettrais tout d'un sur la table, comme ça, tu vois. Voilà.
I love this picture on the table like that.
This feels like a game tape. Like, you know what I mean? Like before like an athlete plays a game, they're like, all right, here's what you do. Here's the play. And they're like,
map it out. Yeah, exactly. You're going to go to the left. You're going to go to the right.
Dis-moi, tu jettes tes deux.
This scene is actually funny too. You know, she thinks there's something wrong with the coffee. Maybe it's the milk. She pours another cup.
It's like that drama teacher in Lady Bird. It's the coach taking over the drama class.
All right.
You have to.
You're gonna need to rush to the sink. All right, draw up 2 cups. All right, run back there. Sniff the milk. Make sure the milk's
all you have is the movements. That's the thing. That's all you have.
Bah oui, mais on mettra un fil. On tirera une ligne, comme on dit. Non, malgré son état, ça va être très dur, ça va se sentir.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I was just like saying, like the movement's like all you have, right? So it's like, it has to, like every, you know, what do they say, micro expression, like, you know, has to like tell the story. So if like all of that matters, 100% of it, all the time, always.
And that coffee scene is actually particularly interesting because she goes through a few aborted like attempts to make the coffee, and this time watching it through, I was thinking, wow, it's like all part of her, I don't know if you want to call it breakdown or disturbance. Like she doesn't know what's wrong. She thinks it's the milk, maybe. She pours another one, but then she takes one sip. No, that's no good. Pour it out. So she's almost getting manic at that point. So that scene is particularly expressive and evocative, especially compared to what came before.
And relatable.
Yes, and relatable. It's all relatable. That's the sad thing.
It felt like manic to me watching it in the theater. I mean, maybe it's just my own state of mind, but it felt very like it felt off, right? Like she didn't really like the taste of the coffee or whatever. She's like smelling the milk. Like it feels like that is very much a part of her breakdown.
Yeah, and also the funniest thing to me is the OCD of like she measures the two. She looks to find exactly the two same sized.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God! Every little moment in this, nothing is wasted.
They don't tell you very much about her background, but like they do drop the fact that she was, you know, the Holocaust had happened, and she either was taken away in the Holocaust or, you know, her lost family in the like, you know, her family was, you know,
there's one line where she's talking to Sylvain and saying, you know, my parents were dead, so I lived with my aunt after the war, and she's giving this long, you know, almost an info dump of what happened to her and why she was with her husband at the time. But yeah,
so
that is
the immeasurable trauma of that, right? Like her inevitable, you know, breakdown when things stop going through this routine or whatever, you know, when the routine breaks down, her inevitable breakdown makes so much sense when you realize like the enormity of the trauma of something like the Holocaust happening and losing your family in that. And like, you know, to that background, because that's what happened to Chantal's mother. both her parents died in the Holocaust. Yeah,
right. And before we move on, in the comments, Robert Bellissimo at the movies said that they also did an homage to this film in the miniseries Mrs. America, which I now remember. That's about Phil Schlafly, Kate Blanchett, Tar, as you may know her, Lydia Tar, is great.
America.
Great show. I looked it up because I remember it was sort of like, oh, well, she's basically done her part to like put a bullet in the head of like the feminist movement or whatever, and then her reward is like she gets to go back to peeling the potatoes. And it is, if you look at it side by side, I was like, oh, that is absolutely there. I just want to throw that in there because I'm probably not going to get a chance to throw that in.
Oh, that's really interesting. And thanks, Robert. Robert's the host of his own very excellent movie podcast. So glad he's with us, Robert. Good to see you. And
I knew there were other homages. I just couldn't think of them. So that's
that elevator scene. That elevator scene. That because we kept seeing that shot of the elevator with the lights kind of going through, and I don't know where I've seen that before, but I remember like in my bones seeing that as a small child and something like it.
I was thinking of Eraserhead, frankly. Lynch did
the other movie that comes to mind immediately for me as homage is Todd Haynes' Safe. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. That's one of my favorite movies of the 90s. But some of the similar, really it's one of the similar themes of like a selflessness, a woman who doesn't know who she is unless she's related to somebody else. And also, some of the sort of wide photography stuff.
Todd Haynes, very interesting filmmaker, very very interesting. But I can see that. I think all right, bring him Sylvain. That kid sucks. Like he sucks, right? Can we all just agree that kid sucks?
And the actor is in that documentary. And he's like, "Hello, I play Sylvain," and I was like looking at him and I was like, "I'm not going to include this clip."
Yeah,
I mean, does a great job of just being like, "Look, she's like
sucks." Yeah. Well, no, he's listen, this is part of what you start to learn is he is being kept as this dependent by her need to serve, right? She said she didn't care about sex with her husband. She didn't really care. She's obviously having sex for money, by the way. We haven't really even mentioned that. That's
because it's like the one most mundane examples of sex work I've ever seen depicted in film, which I love, by the way. I've never seen it just be that.
And you get that within the first 5 minutes, so it definitely is like laying a marker down. Like, oh, okay, this is what she's doing. It's not just the housework and the errands, but he is also a result of a woman who like makes his bed, folds his clothes, feeds him his meals, shines his fucking shoes. Can you remember when at a time where you ever shined a shoe? That's all gone. That's all gone. But she is.
Yet I still use "go get your shine box" as an insult. But go ahead. Yeah.
Ever since about to say, I don't shine any shoes. But the point is, he is infantilized. He has no idea what sex is. His friends are telling him about it. It sounds terrible to him. So he is sort of.
You take as a sword. You plunge into the sword as deep as you can, and you just keep plunging.
Right. He tells the whole story about how he made her sleep with him because he was afraid that she was gonna get stabbed, and she's like, "You needn't have worried." That's another big laugh.
That's so good. That is actually a really funny scene too.
Yeah. You shouldn't have worried about that. Was not gonna happen. But that's to me part of who he is. Is he's just this other place for her to put her sense of control. So, and I can only imagine that Chantal maybe felt that way about her mother.
You can see if all the dogs start barking.
It felt very much like
sometimes that's what she hears a dog in a movie or something. She jumps up and just starts.
No, I don't know. There's somebody's in the hallway trying to get in. I don't know. If I get murdered,
I think Andy's in the hallway trying to get in this conversation. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying it reminded me a bit of Every Sperm is Sacred, where it's like we've only had sex 4 times and we have 4 children. It's like,
well, but it's very clear. Like when you first see Sylvain, right? You're like, oh, is this like her kid or like a young husband?
The actor's a little old for what he's playing, I guess.
But then when she admonishes him about reading at the table, like, oh, kid, okay. Like
that actor's face is so comically, French/Belgian. It reminds me of like one of the cartoons in Triplets of Bellevue or whatever. Triplets of Belleville. But...
Well, but then like he's taken up the same place in her life that her husband did. Like she does the same things, but it's just like, oh, this kid who never once says thank you. for literally anything at any point. By the way,
well, and the father likes reading.
Yeah, no,
he likes reading. You know, at the table, like there must be similarities there, I guess, in the, you know.
But is there? I'm trying to think of, with the exception of the one time where she has a cup of coffee for like a second, there's almost nothing she does that isn't for him or one of her Johns, right? She's cooking or cleaning or shopping or doing errands.
Or
right?
just watching a baby that keeps getting handed to her.
Listening to the neighbors like inanities going on and all. That's another funny scene where the neighbors like talking her ear off just from behind the door. And she's just
I think that's another way that this movie tests.
Well, hold on. Can I sum that up real quick and say, I think she spends a lot of time by herself, but none of it is for herself.
For herself. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. That's really what it is. And she doesn't have a, you know, and I think it is. I mean, again, I just want to say there's another part in that documentary. I don't know if you're showing any more of it for us, where Chantal Akerman says to Delphine Seyrig, I don't want any psychologization of the story. So she, I don't think, is interested in these kinds of analysis readings of the woman as per like a test case or anything like that. But I think it does.
I think I have that one actually.
Like she wants to get like, what's the motivation here? Like, what's
right?
What
she wants it reduced, and Chantal is just
like, and she's like, I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, it's the literal show don't tell movie of maybe of all time.
No, I actually really appreciate that part of it because again, you know, Phantom Menace it is not, where they're constantly telling you how you should feel.
Yeah.
Which is probably the first time those two movies have been brought up in the same conversation ever.
Yeah, I wasn't do it. I just want them to show. It was Conan who said that.
Well, it's a classic example of telling, not showing, right? I mean, it's one of the most egregious ones.
Before I play this clip, I feel like throughout the movie, right, it's so silent with her doing all these things that you almost like long to hear a human voice, right? Like the conversations between characters, you're almost like, oh, thank God someone's talking, right? Like there's verbal communication going on.
Not a problem on this show. Everyone's talking all the time. I long to hear the human voice of Christina. I think she's on this show, right?
Christina's doing a bit where she's playing Jeanne Dielman.
Yeah, exactly. She's doing her taxes to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm really trying to make myself a cup of coffee, but I'm failing. I'm losing my mind.
But
how's your buttons?
We should have had a bit. We should have had a bit where we had Christina peel potatoes.
Yeah, I don't even know how to peel potatoes. I can't. Don't let me cook.
But
she was peeling them with a knife too. That's dangerous. And going
that's how my mom does them.
Skill
cause extreme injury that way.
And she was like aggressively doing it too. I was like, girl, you need to slow down a little bit. You're gonna.
Well, that's in the beginning of things starting to go wrong. She had overcooked the potatoes and was trying to make up time.
That was legit stressful. Like I've never been this stressed out watching someone peel potatoes before.
Yes.
Like, remember that. So much, what I was trying to say is there's so much silence throughout this. You're almost longing for a human voice. I feel like another way that Chantal Akerman tests the audience or like pushes the audience is that every time you talk to characters, it's like an info dump. Like the conversation between characters are like, this happened, then this happened, and this is why I'm doing this. And you get so much information in the space of 15 seconds, and then it's back to you don't get anything for 20 minutes.
We haven't talked about the letter yet. That's a big moment.
Whatever sound and music is used is diegetic. So that means everyone within the context of the film, everyone could actually hear what's going on. It's not like in musicals or where people make fun of musicals. Why is everyone singing?
Well, and it's nice
that for the use of the term diegetic, Christina. Nice.
Yes.
And it's nice when they finally turn on some music on the record player or whatever, and it's like cool. Like it's vibing out. Yeah. You're like in the film with them. Like you know what I mean? Like you're all
hanging out in that.
It's an intimate film. You really feel like you're actually in the film.
Yeah, and you're like, thank God, some music. But this is Chantal talking to Delphine.
I can't wait till Disney buys up the rights and there's a big hologram Jeanne Dielman just vibing out.
I want to see Jeanne Dielman on ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy!
Oh, peeling those potatoes on the ice rink.
Roll it.
Là, je cherche rien du tout et j'exécute exactement. Ça me t'emmerde un petit peu. Non, pas du tout. Je m'emmerde pas, mais je me dis que peut-être il est nécessaire que moi, j'intervienne à un niveau, je ne sais pas très bien lequel, tu vois, les intérieurs, ou peut-être autre chose, mais il y a peut-être un niveau auquel je n'interviens pas assez, parce que je suis un petit peu, tu vois, si tout n'était pas si décrit, bon, ben moi je fais le travail, en fait, que le metteur en scène devrait faire aussi, tu vois. Et là, comme tu l'as entièrement fait d'une certaine manière, moi, j'hésite à faire quoi que ce soit. Je suis un peu passée.
On en parle, on a la répétition pour ça, tu proposes des choses, je suis.
Oui. Non, mais je sais pas, parce que peut-être je me dis, si tu voulais autre chose, tu l'aurais marqué. Et que donc, tu le fais très strict et très comme ça.
Et je préfère sur le passage, je laisse dans un plan.
Oui, c'est ça. C'est ça.
Mais on peut changer le geste,
dire. Autrement dit, ce qu'il y a, c'est que j'y pense pas beaucoup, parce que j'ai l'impression que si j'y pense, je vais faire des choses que toi, tu n'as pas prévues et qui ne t'intéressent pas, tu vois. Donc, moi, je reste très, très, finalement, pion sur un échiquier. Non, mais c'est peut-être faux, c'est pas du tout une critique.
Non, en même temps, je te dis, j'aimerais, bon, je veux bien faire d'autres gestes, tu proposes des choses, mais pas psychologiser l'histoire, tu vois.
Non, mais il ne s'agit pas de psychologiser.
Non, mais c'est pour te dire.
Par exemple, tu me dis, dans les lèvres rouges, tu tricotais les 4 aiguilles. Bon, ben, c'est une chose que j'ai faite moi, les 4 aiguilles, tu vois. Bon, il y avait marqué que je tricotais. Moi, j'ai dit, et si je tricotais les 4 aiguilles? Tu dis les choses, tu vois, je me dis que là, je manque totalement, moi, d'invention, parce que c'est si décrit dans le truc que je dis que...
Mais moi, j'aime bien ce que tu fais. Je veux dire, pour moi, c'est vraiment...
Bon, tu veux...
Ça correspond. Non, c'est pas... Comme, il n'y a rien qui me semble manquer.
Ah bon, et après, je fais quoi?
Après, tu vas regarder quelle heure il est, tu reviens. Tu t'assieds à la table, tu attends. Je crois que c'est dans cet axe-là.
Oui. Alors, tu vois, voilà, c'est ça que je veux voir, tout ce qu'on peut faire en un plan.
D'accord. Et alors, il faut imiter de moi ta main.
Attends, j'ai un chronomètre. Bon, alors, tu vois, c'est pas tellement du point de vue du chronométrage, c'est du point de vue de la... Il me semble que le temps, on l'a vu dans le plan du tricot, on l'avait passe d'une façon tout à fait différente si c'est fait en un plan. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a...
You know, just before that part is awesome. Just before that is when they're doing the hair brushing, and she sort of is like trying to demonstrate the speed and the tempo, and she gives her that one thing. She says, you know, this is sort of like a time for yourself, and she's like, oh, okay, I forget the exact thing she says, but it clicks something for Sierig that she says, oh, okay, that I understand that. And what's amazing about that to me is that you're seeing, you know, an actor can only act like real things. Like they can't act these structuralist ideas. They can't act these sort of abstract notions. They have to have something tangible and real that they can connect to. And you're watching Delphine Seyrig basically teach Chantal Akerman how to talk to an actor in order to get the result she's looking for, but from the inside of what an actor's palette needs to contain. And it's really great because she does seem to respect. She's like, if you didn't want me to do this, you would have written it. I don't want to suggest the wrong thing. And you know, Chantal doesn't really know how to exactly say, and then they kind of butt heads for a while, and then she does say something. She goes, okay, that's something I can use. And to me, this movie could not have been made the way it was without that, without Seyrig finding a way to humanize and ground these, you know, big ideas that Chantal has about how to make the movie and what she doesn't want and so on. But it's just that is proof that it's absolutely crucial that Seyrig was a collaborator on how to embody this woman's life, this inner life that she has to portray. It can't be intellectual. It has to be, I don't know, grounded is the only word I can think of. And she's fighting to find some reason for what she's doing. What's that for?
Doing the hair brushing. I think it's here where she's doing the hair brushing.
Yeah, and it's like she's like says she's doing it too fast, right? And it's like
right,
too
and
fast.
Chantal knows what she's looking for, but she doesn't know how to say it in the terms an actor can use.
Yeah, which is I think it needs to be more dreamy. It's like dreamy. What does that mean?
Right. but the proof is in the pudding. They figured it out. It's incredible.
Because he says, "Oh, you're taking time." She's taking time for herself, and she's like, "That's the thing you're saying." Where she's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I know what that is. Right on. Okay."
Pour faire quelque chose, donc tu vis quelque chose, tu prends ton temps de se coiffer, mais dès que je fais là, c'est pas plus rapide que moi, pas plus lent que moi, tu viens de faire. quelle heure, voilà.
And this is something you're really asked not to do. Don't give line readings. Don't show it the actor. But Seyrig is being generous enough to just say, "Show me what you want me to do, and I'll try to understand it."
Yeah. A lot of actors and actresses would not do that.
No, it's and even when she reads
the letter, as a 25-year-old director that's directed one film before that.
Yeah. But to me, this is why this movie is, again,
that she also starred in,
Yeah. But that's
her two the Hotel Monterey one is literally just silent the entire movie.
Has no people, no actors.
Yeah.
And J2LA is like her and some other non-actors. But see, that's to me why this movie is such a masterpiece, is because it's not just like a Michael Snow experimental movie that she was highly influenced by. It's not just this intellectual structuralist experimental type movie. It has a living, beating heart, emotion brought by Seyrig in her performance at the heart of all of this really amazing structure and big ideas and kind of playing with form. So the two are mixed in such a perfect way that to me that's part of the alchemy of why this is a masterpiece.
And why they decided to put it on ice.
I mean, if you could do a triple axel while peeling a potato, I will go see that.
I mean, well, yeah, look, that sounds great.
Tanya Harding, are you still available?
Yeah, exactly.
And much like Tanya Harding, this is a woman with a darker side.
Well, and this is a momentous film, as mentioned, for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the depiction of a woman working in the household on film. That wasn't really a thing. That wasn't a thing you could go to a movie and see.
And we did. It was just a quick scene. It was this little cliff notes just to set up, like, oh, there she is doing the dishes, and now the scene starts. No, that is the scene.
Yeah, I mean, the closer.
And here's how it reacts to the dude that is in her life. Okay, well, great.
I feel like a lot of 50s sitcoms like to set it up with the woman doing the dishes and the guy comes in and starts a bunch of shit. That's like the closest you can really get. In this movie, it's just those long, slightly uncomfortable, but ever I guess declining as her mental state declines moments of housework.
And again, there could be a version of this film that has narration that shows that decline, that shows as the days goes on that it's starting to break her down. It just it wouldn't work as well.
Oh yeah,
it would be hacky.
And of course,
I could think of a dozen ways to ruin this movie.
And that version that you're describing, Conan, has me have Harrison Ford's voice from Blade Runner as the narration.
Sure.
See, I don't know if she knows. I don't know how much she knows that she's declining until she finally does and snaps. But until
it wouldn't be like I'm in decline right now. It wouldn't be like a video game. It would be like it'd be like you would. The thought process would these routines are so important to her, right?
Well, let's talk about when it actually starts to go down, because it's in between one of her visits with the John, right? Yeah. Day 3. Well, no, it's day 3. Are we on day 3 already?
No. That's why I'm saying
it's between 1 and 2. The first thing that she does wrong is she forgets to put the top back on the bowl when she leaves that room after the second day of seeing the John. So it's implied that since we see the end that she has this orgasm, that she's starting to in some way have a feeling in that moment. We don't know exactly what it is, if it's another orgasm or something else. She's starting.
Orgasms can do that to you. They're powerful.
I've heard. I mean,
that's a rumor on the
orgasm.
Street.
The myth of the
orgasm. My first thought after seeing it was woman experiences orgasm for the first time. You won't believe what happens next. Like one of those clickbait things.
I think I read that on Letterboxd. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I did too.
That sounds familiar. But that first starting to unravel is I think at that moment, and I don't know. I guess maybe guys all give me your take. Is like, how does that translate? What is she saying to us with that? The implication that that's what's knocking her off her routine.
It's like The Godfather. I get it. I get it.
What?
Sorry.
No, I didn't hear you.
I said, he's like, I get it.
Well, I think that's probably there's interpretation that's opened up to, because again, all you have are these micro expressions of like even figuring out like what her emotional state is, and the fact that she lives each day with these routines and these things. She never has a timer going, right? It's like everything's so meticulously mapped out that it's almost like alarming when like one of the Johns comes in and it goes later, and like that in and of itself is like, oh crap, something's terribly wrong.
Yeah, there's that moment where she looks at the clock on the side of the bed where you can't quite exactly make out, even on a big screen, what time it is. But that's her reaction is like, oh shit, I'm way behind, and so the potatoes burn, and so they have to wait longer. Oh, another question that I don't know if anybody has got an answer to, that I still don't, after 4 times seeing the movie, know. Where do they go? Right, she leaves with him at night. Do you have any guesses where they go, or did you read anything for us about explains? And he says, like, we ate so late. Do we have to go tonight? I wonder.
Yeah,
if
I don't know what that.
Just go wander around in weird back alleys is what it looks like to me. I don't understand it.
Well,
I was thinking about to the first kind of question in this. I was thinking about like Betty Friedan and the feminine mystique, which was kind of in America like the female liberation, the seeds that kind of turned into the female, like the woman's liberation movement. It's kind of a
Phyllis Schlafly later on attempted to completely deconstruct. Yeah.
Well, so there was like the idea of like bored housewife, which in this is obviously a response to trauma and a lot of other things too, but like bored housewife syndrome, which was kind of, put forth by Betty Friedan, and revolves around, housewives kind of losing their minds because these daunting tasks, they're not living up to their full potential. They're just living to please their families. And
was she the one who debated Phil Schlafly and got over emotional because your husband she
said she wanted to burn her at the stake.
Yeah. I mean, good for her, but also too, she literally was like, we can't be touching up. Like, she literally also was a bit of a TERF, from my understanding, and
Probably.
She thought that she was a bit of a TERF. And
I mean, that term obviously didn't exist then, but
basically,
she also wasn't a bored housewife. And the story she came up with in the feminine mystique was like a lie. She was already a woman's liber, as they called it back in the day, when she wrote that book.
Well, in the early 60s, as opposed to the actual movement. Like she was.
So I was thinking about this movie though, and that moment almost as liberation, right? Like she has the orgasm, but in the same sense, you could kind of metaphorically see that as her awakening. And then she turns around and she kills the man. And you can see that as a metaphor itself, for her transcending to this next phase, realizing that this
strong,
phase
independent woman.
Well, she already was, because in the letter, they're like, I know you say you are a strong, independent woman, but I think you need a husband.
Now, the one thing I was thinking about. Sorry.
I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny that hypocrites like Phil Schlafly would be like, women belong in the kitchen. Yet I'm like, you and your activists are doing work though. Like, what the fuck? You're out of the kitchen. Get back in.
Yeah, if that woman was such a bored housewife, how did she know how to write a book about it?
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
But I think that this is it's so interesting if you watch any media appearances that they did, say again, Chantal Akerman, both around this time. Of course, it's to dude hosts / journalists who are almost like not even engaging with the art on itself, but just it turns into an opportunity to like, okay, why would you tell this kind of story?
Right.
And then to see that and be like, oh right, there just wasn't anything like this at all. And I have a lot of thoughts as to what how people engage to it now versus then, but at the time, again, it would be groundbreaking to see something transgressive about this, like this movie in a theater, and to see something depicted literally you have never seen before, but everyone has had in their lives. I mean, more or less, and I say that as someone that I don't think anyone in my life has ever been domestic that way, inclusive.
I saw one,
but
I saw one where a guy.
Oh, sorry, Forrest. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I saw one media appearance where a friend or a French TV host tried to mansplain the plot of her own movie to her.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, which is astounding, right? Yeah, it sounds like this show. But
you see, there's a lot of interviews where she just does not want to have a discussion about any isms at all. Structuralism, feminism, Marxism, capitalism, even though they're all in there, she didn't want to be reduced to being a female filmmaker or making a feminist movie. She's a filmmaker. And yes,
Good
it just
for
so
her.
happens that she had to break this ground. But what's that?
She said good for her.
Well, and that's similar to here, I have the clip of her talking about
She's
it.
like, I just want to make art. I just want to make
Well,
art.
and she's honestly, she was right to do it because again, as you mentioned, Matthew, and thinking about it, I found out Chantal Akerman through Jim Jarmusch, who I was like completely obsessed with as a young man and still, frankly, quite into. And be like, oh, if Jim Jarmusch likes it, Jesus, must be freaking awesome. And then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's, the fact that it's a double-edged sword. She does spend a lot of time showing us these sort of, mundane, people talk about boring, drudgery, but there is something like transcendent after a while. It's like that Zen thing of chop wood, carry water. The more you're able to just be in the moment of whatever task you're doing, you as the audience actually get that kind of, call it whatever you want, transcendental moment. You're realizing that she's in a way a trap, but it's also the film itself, the spending the time with it itself. I think it I don't know, it redeems all of that in some beautiful way.
Well, it's really you as the audience. We all just knocked her off her axis because we took the transcendental moments from her, and then she's like, fuck, now I'm in decline. I'm going down.
Aren't you glad there is a narration of her inner thoughts?
Yeah, it helps.
Who knew that she was Deadpool?
This is Delphine kind of talking about her theory of feminism, which I guess she had not come out as a feminist. Coming out, it's a weird way to say.
She's a closet feminist.
Well, she was. So she was this glamorous actress that hadn't come out with her activism quite yet, right? Like she was involved in projects that had it, but she was not vocally about it. This is kind of her thesis statement on her feminism, I guess, and it's similar to what we were just talking about with Chantal. Well, first they're in this hallway, and they're taking
and she's in her 40s, so she's much more interested in talking about it that way.
Très heureuse d'aborder une vision des femmes inconnues, plus approfondies et inconnues. Et du fait qu'en général, ce sont les hommes qui font des films et que quelle que soit leur perception des choses, quelle que soit leur sensibilité, il y a des réalisateurs comme Bergman qui vont passer leur vie à faire des pulsions, mais quand les femmes vont parler d'elles-mêmes, je crois que ça va être complètement différent. Si vous voulez, les stéréotypes de personnages qu'on voit sont les mères, les prostituées, les mauvaises femmes, les nymphesses, donc toute une gamme bien précise qu'on voit dans tous les films de femmes. Je crois qu'à partir du moment où, par exemple, ces mêmes sujets vont être abordés par les femmes, comme la prostitution, par exemple, je pense que ça sera sous un angle qu'on n'aura pas encore.
Dites-vous que vous êtes une féministe, que vous l'êtes devenue, et suite à quelle situation, quel événement, quelle émotion?
Moi, je crois que c'est un peu long. Je crois que toutes les femmes sont féministes, ou alors on se suscite tout de suite. Je veux dire, où on est une femme et on voit qu'il n'y a pas d'espoir et que la place des femmes dans le monde est très très limitée à savoir faire des enfants, faire la vaisselle, faire la cuisine, se lever et toute sa vie servir un mari et des enfants. C'est une vocation préfabriquée, on nous élève petit à ça. Je crois que toutes les femmes le savent. En fait, sont petites filles qu'on les prédestine à ça. Bon, il y a un moment ou un autre, on se met plus ou moins consciemment en colère contre ça, où on devient, ça peut prendre des formes différentes. On peut devenir archi-féminine parce qu'on sait que c'est la seule manière de s'en tirer. C'est peut-être ce qui m'est arrivé à moi. De jouer la féminité parce que je savais que c'était la seule carte avec laquelle je pouvais m'en sortir dans la société telle qu'elle est. Bon, je pense que c'est quand même une forme de comment dire, de désir de survie. On veut s'en tirer. Et on essaie de s'en tirer de toutes les manières possibles. Maintenant, il va peut-être y avoir des manières plus intéressantes de s'en tirer que de jouer la carte de la féminité. Et je crois que c'est ça qui est en train de se passer maintenant. Je ne sais pas si maintenant j'avais 13 ans, si c'est la féminité que je choisirais comme voie d'ouverture, comme possibilité dans la vie. Il se trouve qu'à l'époque où moi j'avais 14 ans, ça me semblait être la seule voie. C'est de me maquiller, de devenir une dame, d'être aimée, adulée, adorée. Et pour moi, je n'avais de raison d'être que si j'étais acceptée, aimée par quelqu'un de l'autre sexe. C'était l'autre sexe qui comptait, c'est-à-dire un homme. Je crois que maintenant, peut-être les femmes vont commencer à ne pas se baser sur le jugement des hommes sur elles. Et à ce moment-là, la féminité, le maquillage, tout ça va changer. Si elles pensent qu'elles ont une valeur en elles-mêmes, elles n'éprouveront plus le besoin d'épouser les critères des hommes, peut-être.
Et là, on pourrait se poser la question aujourd'hui, c'est quoi cette féminité? Si on sait que, par exemple, la maternité ou la femme du travail sont remis en cause, alors une féminité.
Ce qui est remis en cause, c'est le choix. Aucune femme ne dira qu'elle renie, par exemple, la maternité, ou du moins pour toutes les femmes. Elle le renie peut-être pour elle-même, peut-être qu'elle ne veut pas de la maternité pour elle-même. Mais je crois que ce que les femmes veulent, c'est avoir le choix de pouvoir être mère ou ne pas l'être, de pouvoir faire ce qu'elles ont envie de faire, d'avoir un choix. Alors jusqu'à maintenant, il y a la moitié de l'humanité dont le destin était déjà préfabriqué à la naissance. Et je trouve que cette moitié de l'humanité, c'était les femmes, parce que les hommes ont toujours eu une possibilité.
Well, and first of all, if you don't speak French and you're listening to the podcast, I'm very sorry. But it was a very interesting conversation. And also, you got to remember,
we recommend that you watch when it's an international movie, like a movie from a different country. It's not.
Figure it out. She was still flying pretty high from her role in Day of the Jackal, right? Which is Day of the Jackal. She's great in Day of the Jackal, and that was a huge movie. She was nominated. I don't believe she won, but she was nominated for a BAFTA for it. She had a pretty large platform. And again, you got to remember, this is like the dawn of the women's lib movement. So it was considered like, oh, you're making it political, like it was like, oh yeah, by asking for basic rights, huh? That's political. All right.
It still is that,
right? Yeah, I was gonna say, not that we've advanced that much, but yeah, like literally putting her career, which was again after Day of the Jackal, especially was on this star trajectory that she could do these huge films and be a real contender for best actress and one of the best of her age. And what she do? She shacks up with Chantal Akerman and does this movie. Amazing. What a bold choice. And
I mentioned it earlier. So that same year, I think she also did Marguerite Duras's India Song, which is in some ways actually an even weirder movie. It has no dialogue, basically. It's all voiceover. So she was taking chances, basically trading in on what you're saying, the clout that she was and spending it doing. She could have just made bigger and bigger movies, but she was spending it on these interesting artists and particularly female artists to actually use it for good as opposed to just her own personal clout. But she also, her first movie that I was aware of was last year in Marienbad. So she started out in weird movies too.
Yeah, I mean, she's in that Jacques Demy movie Donkey Skin, which is legit bonkers, but I completely love it.
Is that before this?
It's before this, and it's lot to be said about that. But we're not talking about Donkey Skin.
I'll come back for that one if you want. I don't know.
Deeply entertaining movie. That also it's like a period fantasy piece that features a helicopter at the end because why not? Okay, sure. But she's. But no, she's in this Charm of the Bourgeoisie, right? She's again takes these bold swings over and over again.
She's like the Tom Cruise of art movies. She always wants to work with a hot director.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, she released in 1981 a movie that it has a French title, but it translates to English, "Be Pretty and Shut Up." And she found 24 actresses, which included Jane Fonda, and Chantal Akerman as well. And she, interviewed them on the price of kind of men's expectations and not being allowed to express themselves politically and all of that. And she turned that into like her own directorial, statement, I guess.
I think she also tried to adapt the Valerie Solanas track into a movie, if I'm not mistaken. I've never seen it, but she was pushing boundaries in a good way.
Exactly. How busy. Good for her.
Yeah, but that's why, but see, that's the thing is Chantal Akerman was not necessarily interested in putting all of this forward in that way. But again, that's why Delphine Seyrig was the perfect person to be at the center of this, because she had a sympathy for the point of view she was trying to portray, and maybe even had a greater, she was 20 years older than her. She had a more grounded experience with the material too.
And I think the clips of Chantal kind of coaching her through stuff and like trying to connect to her, you really realize like in those clips, like, oh, this is like a 25-year-old that's kind of just like continually telling a 40-year-old star like, oh, I don't need anything more from you, you're doing fine. And she's like, I need to know like why I'm doing this. And she's like, no, you don't. Just I know why you're doing this. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, just do these actions. Like.
She was learning, but then again, Orson Welles was 25 when he made Citizen Kane, and I guess that fact is brought up a few times, but for different reasons.
But it's more likely to be brought up for a male director, always. It's just again, I like that. If nothing else, Sight and Sound is. This bringing this film to so many people's attention. Most people have never heard of Chantal Akerman, like unless you're like a film nerd beyond film nerds, right? And again, she's making this like wildly transgressive stuff in her 20s. I'm not saying I was doing nothing in my 20s. I wasn't making nothing like this, though. I'll tell you that much.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
I was podcasting in my 20s.
Exactly.
I mean, thank God, maybe Chantal Akerman would be just doing a podcast if she was born, 30, 40 years later.
This is my podcast. It is just someone peeling potatoes, and
she came up with ASMR.
Yeah. You'd be amazed how much money you can make off of Twitch just doing that.
I mean, I don't know if she could make the longest TikTok possible. I don't know if that's really a thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you bring that up, Conan, about the poll. It got a lot of hoopla amongst a certain group, but most people don't even know what that poll is, right? So it's a subset amongst a subset, and it got all this sort of backlash of guys like you mentioned, Paul Schrader, calling it this woke reappraisal, that suddenly a woman had to win at the top, and I think that's bullshit, because first of all, the only thing that we know for sure about that poll is that they increased the number of people that they included in it. So they cast a wider net, and maybe you could say they rigged it by, I'm going to get more or something like this. But that's hard to prove.
We rigged the election by more people voting.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
We rigged it by making it more actually reflective of what people like. Wow, that's a weird way to rig it. So it's sort of, I keep saying they unrigged it. They took their thumb off the scale by widening it. But also, and this is the thing that people don't really think about, is what I mentioned before, this movie was unseeable in a wide range, where Citizen Kane, ever since every home movie format existed, it was out. Vertigo.
It's like one of the first ones that they go through. Citizen Kane on there.
Tokyo Story. Yeah, all these other ones that are up there all the time had been out and made the rounds more. And also were easier to watch, obviously, after 3 hours. But since the DVD has been out and the Blu-ray has been out, more people wound up actually seeing it and having their caps peeled, if you will, and therefore it's on there. But if you go look at a lot of the individual lists, some of the same people put Chantal Akerman's movie and Vertigo, and it wasn't like suddenly there were these woke lists that were so throwing it off. So to me, it's
you made movies woke.
Yeah, I mean,
by letting women direct them. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if we want to talk about the poll, I had more objections to more newer films making it on there already, like Get Out, which I liked, but I was like, really? It's one of the top 100 of all time? Or I'm trying to think of what else was on there.
I put it in there.
There were a couple newer ones that I thought, like, is that really better than what it knocked out? But certainly Jeanne Dielman was on the list before, just not so high up.
Well, you're a powerful advocate for older, not obscurist, but obscure cinema. Yeah. So, and there's, and again, there's there's absolutely needs to be more people that are doing that. And there's certainly recency bias in any kind of poll. But I have a theory too that I think it's kind of telling that this film is the one that ended up winning, because I think that the modern age of lockdown and like just the maddening routine of everyday life in it is something that like it's probably seemed rather alien to like film goers in the 70s, but it's incredibly relatable now. So like I think that's something that factored in as well when you're thinking about like, well, what's some other stuff that like could be, because if I was voting in a poll like that, I'm gonna pick one or two kind of weird ones, like, oh, I'm gonna throw this one in here that's like, you know, it should be heard, right? It's a movie that more people should see or something, you know. Like I'm not just gonna do all the Verne movies.
I think that's funny.
Are there more than one? I feel like there's probably a lot of them, right? I don't know the answer to that question.
Chantal Akerman, Jeanne Dielman was the original self-lockdown, right?
Well, precisely. And so I think that makes a difference too with how people connect to art and engage with art. And
actually, she goes out an awful lot. I forgot how much she's actually out of the house. Yes, she's running errands and doing menial stuff, but she's not in the house that much.
But she's still socially distant with a lot of it, and so that's where I think Akerman was very brilliant. Yeah, sure. In her way of not wanting to be tied to like these modernist at the time movements of like, you know, be not just feminism, but like women's lib specifically and things like that. Like, and not because she didn't believe in those, but because she didn't want to be grounded in that time. And that's actually brilliant, because that allows people to engage with this incredibly transgressive work of art in a different way down the line with circumstances you could not possibly imagine. Chantal Akerman herself, of course, took her own life, not that long ago. Could not have imagined people like reacting to it because of a worldwide quarantine, right? Could not have imagined that.
And she's on record as hating lists. She's like, I don't like talking about this stuff. Like, why do we have to bother with ranking? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Which, you know, you got to give her credit for having that.
But the one
integrity.
thing though, I'm sorry. The one idea though that kind of really fascinates me is, even though this is timeless, it kind of speaks very much to that time of the 70s, where like it is kind of like the first generation after World War II, like it's completely kind of grown up. And
which was Chantal's generation too, right? Like, she's 25 at the time of this.
She's sweet spot baby boomers, 1950, so she really is.
Yeah, and this is about that alienation of the 70s that came out of, you know, the proto neoliberalization of the world that kind of began and went from that after World War II as we kind of rebuilt into this image of capitalism. And this film is like, it's not directly commenting on any of that, but it is also a reaction to all of that. It's a film about that alienation that is found within the capitalist realism that Mark Fisher identified, many, many years later. But it's doing it in a way where it's showing you and not telling you. So as opposed to Mark Fisher talking about the Matrix movies, this is about, peeling potatoes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of fascinating that it's the BFI Sight and Sound poll too, right? Like, it's British people that are kind of voting in this poll. And
that's who started it. But
the British.
That's the British Film Institute who started the poll, but that's the idea. Is it's been widened to be more than just British people.
Yeah, but AKA rigged. It was rigged by letting people vote in it. Yes.
But what I'm saying is, like, I think the European reaction to this movie is definitely different than the American reaction to this movie. And in Belgium, this movie didn't really take off, but it was like a huge hit in the rest of Europe. So it's kind of fascinating that I think it's a very time and place kind of thing, right? Like, who responds to this movie viscerally and who doesn't.
I don't know if it was ever a box office smash nearly anywhere. I mean, it's
not box office. It became a huge cult classic though. It became a huge cult movie in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
not at first. It took like a stretch of time for that to happen.
I mean, it was popular enough that I saw it 2 or 3 times in New York City, at least from the late 90s to the mid 2000s. So it got its reputation for sure. Yeah. She made it the same year. She also made another one called News from Home. You guys know
News
that
from Home
one?
was great. Yeah,
it's incredible. It's more of a documentary, but it's with the letters that she wrote to her mother. So it's very much in a way like a companion piece to this, but it's more it's more of a documentary, really.
Well, and there's a strong, and by the way, Paul Schrader, 4 years older than Chantal Akerman. By the way, just for just my own personal application.
Yeah, but like, if someone like Paul Schrader is like, oh, that's woke nonsense, that's just like jealousy that his movies didn't get picked for the same sample. Like,
he said, I love this movie, but it's not the greatest movie of all time. But you know, he
had a nuanced take on it, but it was pretty boomer energy nonetheless.
It was boomer energy. And you know, the same summer she was making this, they were making Taxi Driver. So go figure, you know, what they were into at that same time.
Which I think is also about the same kind of alienation that this movie touches on, but you know, a different perspective.
Yeah, and dealing with the trauma of the Vietnam War for him as opposed to World War II for her. But you know, you said also these sort of cultural touchstones and things that are there. It speaks to just how you know, soberly she was presenting this experience, that it couldn't help but contain all of these other implicating factors that, like you said, she wasn't necessarily meaning to include them as a polemical kind of thing, but they were all right there because she was being so honest about the reality that she was portraying.
And again, it manages two things. It manages to be emblematic of the times, but relatively timeless in a way because it's an artistic statement, which is good art.
Yeah, like we may go like show shines, okay, but we still get like, oh yeah, OCD is still a thing. You know, routines, crushing routines. And by the way,
gotta peel those potatoes.
Still gotta peel the potatoes. Yeah.
Well, this sets up this.
All roads go back to potatoes.
This Criterion clip where they interview her sitting on top of one of these hills, and she's talking about the potato peeling and her mother, and the invocation of her mother throughout this film.
Oh, cool.
Je suis née à Bruxelles en 1950. Mes parents avaient immigré de Pologne et c'était la moitié du siècle et c'est aussi que 5 ans après la guerre 40-45. Et du côté de ma mère, il y en a peu qui ont survécu. Et ma mère elle-même a survécu, sinon je ne serais pas là, mais... Elle a survécu d'une manière bizarre, je pense, maintenant. Beaucoup de choses de ce que j'ai fait sont, je crois, liées à ce qui lui est arrivé. Elle n'en a jamais parlé. J'ai cru un moment que je parlais pour elle. Et puis, parfois, je me suis dit que je parlais contre elle.
Nice. Nervous when she cuts towards herself. She cut away from herself.
Je ne sais pas si lui envoyer un film comme Jeanne Dielman au visage était si généreux que ça, parce qu'en fait c'est vrai qu'elle s'y est reconnue, ainsi que toutes mes tantes, ainsi que plein de gens de cette génération-là, de plein de gens de ce milieu-là, des femmes. Et c'est un monde de l'enfermement, de la répétition, on veut savoir ce qu'on fait à midi, on veut savoir ce qu'on fait à 12h05, on veut savoir ce qu'on fera à 1h, on veut savoir ce qu'on fera la semaine prochaine. Et puis voilà, moi, sa fille, j'arrive et je fais Jeanne Dielman. Et je montre en fait quelque chose que je ressens d'elle et de ses tantes, et quelque chose qui ne laisse aucune place à ses cours de piano, et aucune place à autre chose d'ailleurs, que la répétition, le côté obsédé, l'enfermement, les couloirs, les cuisines. Le premier film que j'ai fait, par exemple, Saute ma ville, était un monde, se passait quasiment tout dans une cuisine, mais c'était la destruction du monde. D'ailleurs, ça s'appelait Saute ma ville.
Nice.
I feel like she almost did invent ASMR. Like, there's so much.
It's very soothing in its way. Yeah.
Yeah, I decided to go out to the mountains where she was.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Apparently, Andy can spot her from there. Yeah.
Conan, you mentioned that you didn't have any domestic type people in your family, but to be honest, this I don't know if it's the Jewish aspect of it from her or what, but there's so much of this is very reminiscent of, especially my grandparents who are her. They were already over here during World War II, so it wasn't exactly that trauma, but there's plenty of trauma in the back of these Jewish people's minds for many years of the reason why they left. But the obsession with, like she says, schedule, what are we doing here? We're planning dinner every day of the week. Things like always turn the light off. To this day, like I'm extremely turn the light off when you leave the room, turn it back on when you go in. Like these are things that I resented, but then somehow I absorbed. What, Andy?
Depression era children really kind of. My grandparents are from the Depression, and my grandmother, she's still to this day saves every little thing like ridiculously.
The silver foil, the aluminum foil she has folded in the drawer. That was another little thing, like not off the roll. Like, we can use that again.
Nope. My grandmother would do the same thing, and she has so many little camera, canisters,
film canisters. We could use those for something. Yeah. Of course, we could put something. Put pins in there.
To be explicitly clear, no shortage of trauma. Just not a lot of
they subsumed it in a different way. No, I get it.
Yeah. And a lot of that was an overreaction to their parents, respectively, who were more of the type of personality that you guys are discussing there. But again, it's something that I can recognize, even if it's something I didn't live through and still continue to not live through. Of that, the banality, especially of you think about the patriarchy, right? Their traditional patriarchy, and the fact that. What those darn women libbers were fighting against, that was what life as a woman was, and it was not depicted in films if it was only to advance the plot of the male characters and to just there they are doing the thing that they do, which is be in the kitchen serving the family.
Oh, women be cooking and
women be cooking.
No, if she's not in the scene, she be shopping. If she's
not shopping,
she be cooking.
Conan, your mother did take gentlemen callers in for money. I know.
Right, exactly.
But
I didn't have that going on. I had a lot of stuff going on, but none of that.
There's an entryway for everybody.
The trauma of the camps, right? Like being put in if you think about this as a corollary to Chantal's own mother's story and her being taken to the camps, and I can't imagine what it's like to be in a fucking concentration camp, lose your family, and then have to go back to just kind of life again. Like that aspect of this movie too, like the trauma she's masking is something more horrific than really anything that we've lived through as a like our generations have lived through since then.
Well, it's funny you say that, and it's funny also that you brought up the lockdown, Conan, because during the lockdown I read Man's Search for Meaning. Do you know that book? The Viktor Frankl's account of how he survived the concentration camps. And there is this thing about you sometimes can't control your circumstances, but what you can control is your reaction to them. And I think there's something about that in this movie too. This is her figuring out okay, she stabs the guy, but it's her first thing that she does to actually have her own reaction to this as opposed to what she's supposed to do.
Yeah,
which is kind of, if you're not prepared for it, a little jarring. After
huge jarring, right? Photos, the whole audience went, "Whoa!"
Everybody. There was an audible gasp from everyone because I guess most people that were watching didn't know how the movie necessarily was going to end. I'd assume. And
most people only know that it's long, and they know that it's a woman in the kitchen doing stuff, and that's all they know of it.
But the people were locked in at least enough for that one to be, what it is. And, I've heard people criticize it as like, oh, suddenly it's so dramatic. It's like too pulpy all of a sudden. But
that's women for you. Always being too
dramatic. If they're not cooking, they're stabbing, No, but
if there's been a build up to it, there has been a build up to it the entire film. It's just that it's the slowest of slow boils.
And again, watching it through this time, knowing the end is coming, when you see her trying to open the package, like we haven't even talked about, like she's checking the mail all the time that her sister is sending her this package. When she tries to undo the knot and she can't undo it enough in a way to keep the string. That's another one of these things, Andy, right?
You gotta keep that string. Exactly.
Like she's just gonna try to undo that, right? But she goes and gets the scissors, and they just so happen to be there in that moment. So it's all these kind of confluences of things, almost fate, that makes her do that in that exact moment.
Yeah, anytime we have Christmas with Grandma, she always has to save the bows so she can put them on the presents the next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and even just folding the pajamas and putting them under the pillow. Did you guys ever do that? That was my grandparents' thing too, and my dad tried to pass that on to me, and I just didn't take with it.
I just ran around the house naked like a feral wolf child. From the comments, Criterion Collection, as opposed to wokeism, is really what showed up in the polls this time. Their brand cachet can really push films into the wider conversation.
I agree. That's just the availability of this movie makes, I don't know if it's Criterion per se, but just the availability of the movie to a wider audience. And then they're just saying like, holy shit, this is a masterpiece.
Well, look at something like Come and See, right? Which I feel like I referenced quite a bit on the show, actually.
Yeah. Wait till we do the episode.
Yeah,
you're talking about a totally different movie.
But that's on the list too, isn't it? Did that make the list?
It is, yeah, the Elam Cleoff movie, which it was him and The Ascent. What's her name?
His wife.
Yeah. Like they both made these like incredible.
Laura Shepetko. I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
Shemenko, yeah, and they both made these incredibly just groundbreaking films about the horror and cost of war and things along those lines that people just literally had never seen. So they were never in a conversation because you couldn't see them, especially because during communism. Are you kidding me? Yeah, let's go show some communist movies about how war is bad. Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that explains other ones on the list. People got mad about too. Killer of Sheep, that was never available.
Oh yeah.
Wanda, that was another one that was never available. These are movies. I had to go see Killer of Sheep at the Star Bar on 2nd Avenue in the back of a pool room hung on a sheet off a 16mm print.
Nice.
To actually get to see it. And you couldn't even really see it. It was very, but
I thought for a second you were going to say you had to see it on the bus with the guy playing it on his iPhone without any speakers in.
His trench coat was open.
That's over here. Yeah.
And I remember when they first had movies that you could watch on your cell phone. I had like a little flip phone, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to have to do this. And that's how I watched Animal House.
Somehow Quentin Tarantino is getting really mad for no reason right now, by the way. He's like, why am I so mad?
Also, Criterion has it, but I don't know.
That is the most Andy sentence I've ever heard. He watched Animal House on his flip phone. Everybody,
wow, man, it's like the universe.
The brand is strong. Go ahead, Forrest. Sorry.
So I don't know what their relationship is fully because there's a merger at one point, I think, but HBO Max has a lot of stuff Criterion Channel has on their thing, so they also have Chantal Akerman's a bunch of her movies as a collection on HBO Max as well.
Yeah, they don't have Batgirl, but they got Chantal Akerman.
That speaks well of them. I'm actually marching my way through her body of work slowly, and I can also say that the one right after this. What's that?
I said Batgirl. You're working through her.
Yeah, I will watch Batgirl once I've seen every Chantal Akerman movie. I promise you, Andy. But the one that's right after this, which is sort of about her experience going from film festival to film festival with this movie, is actually also really, really good. Called The Rendezvous of Anna. So if you're,
yeah. I think I have that on my Criterion channel this year. I might have 2 Ackermans in there.
That it's almost as good. It's a little less taxing. I think it's only like 2 hours, but it's clearly the work by the same person, and it's also very personal in that it's now like about a woman who's being treated the way she's been treated as a filmmaker.
Yeah, The Meetings of Anna, Le Rendezvous d'Anna. Again, I took German, just like Christina. Awesome. And I do indeed have it in my watch list, and I have it in my Criterion Challenge. That's one I have not seen. I haven't seen that one. It's just like her and her mom talking to. It was like somewhat recent. She's got a bunch of stuff.
Well, I'm waiting to get to that one. It's again sad that she made this one of her last big movies was called No Home Movie. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly the one I'm talking about.
It's like an interview with her mother, and then so I'm working my way up to that one.
Well, it's an interview with her mother, knowing that her mother is dying. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're looking for, another one of the isms that she didn't want to get bogged down in was like Jewish filmmaker, because she played a lot of films at
2015
film festivals and stuff, and that the Jewish experience in Europe was part of her life story, but she never wanted to like cater to it directly. But in one movie she did, which is also pretty awesome, is again semi-documentary called, I think it's just called Tell Me or Dis-moi, and it just interviews with people like her aunts, other survivors, and people just telling their stories in sort of like a single camera, and occasionally it cuts to her just sort of like placidly listening. It's actually a very fascinating short film. It's not exactly a full feature, but
and by short film you mean like 45 hours.
Exactly. shorter than this one. I don't actually know that she made any other movies that were quite this long, but I'm gonna find out. She made.
I watched J2L or whatever. I can't.
That was awesome.
J2L. I watched that on Friday.
It's my favorite Star Wars character.
It's the least racist of the Lucas ones. Yeah.
Apparently, there people have like seen like the Jack Black and Lizzo on The Mandalorian. They're like, and people are like, George Lucas is rolling in his grave, and I'm like, if you're a real Star Wars fan, you would know that George Lucas is still alive.
He's still alive, and
considering still wanting Code Zeros.
And considering some of the atrocities that were presented in those prequels, it's the least you're concerned, friend.
he's rolling in his vault. That's where he's rolling.
Yeah, exactly. He's pulling in Uncle Scrooge right now.
So I watched J2L. It's less experimental somehow than this one was for sure.
I don't know if I agree with that assessment. Well, it's got a lot less narrative. Like she's in a house, then she gets on a truck, and then she goes to a diner, and then
it's very experimental. But my point is that this, I just feel like there's something.
I think an uninterrupted 15-minute sex scene is it's pretty experimental.
I'd say the opposite is true, but interesting take.
I don't know. I just feel like this movie's lack of, like, at least in that movie, you kind of had her reading the letters and you kind of understood what was going on, and it had like a. I did like that it was kind of a concentric circle, the entire plot of that movie. Like, she starts and ends leaving. Like, so I liked that aspect of it. But I don't know. I felt like
you probably watched that one from start to end uninterrupted, right?
it's shorter.
Too soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Too soon. Damn, savage. Totally savage.
Well, no, I mean, it does impact your ability to understand what's happening, but
I watched this one again last night. Like, I watched,
Did you pick up? I'm so curious about this experiment you ran on yourself.
Matthew can't wait to see your report on his desk so we can.
Did you? Yeah.
Can judge
it.
I
already gave your video essay a B+, so that's fine. But what's the What did you?
Would have got an A- if not for the hand job reference.
I'm trying to ask him a question.
I know.
Did you pick up anything that as you were besides the hand job in J2LA? Did you notice anything in the video that you rewatched that when you were like, oh, like it clicked something that you didn't get when you were watching it in pieces?
What do you mean?
When you saw Jeanne Dielman, when you went back and watched Jeanne Dielman, is that what you said?
Is there something you got out of it that you didn't get with the theater experience?
Did anything that you saw, because you missed the whole meatloaf making scene. Like, I was really like, oh, he's got to see the meatloaf scene, and that was like right at the moment you left. So that to me is one of the key moments of things.
Yeah, it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show. The meatloaf scene is the one.
I actually told the people sitting behind me that I'm gonna throw meatloaf at the scene. That does scream.
Well, he now knows how to make meatloaf, so he's got that going for him.
I mean, I felt like the first 15 minutes seeing it the second time was it really put you into the routine part of it, and I was kind of disappointed that I had missed that aspect of it, because there isn't really much going on in the sense of like like stuff that I feel like, oh well, I didn't see this the next day, watching it, or I didn't see this, but it the routine part of it, because I kind of threw myself into it. I mean, I jumped on the subway and was waiting for trying to figure out where the thing was at Grand Central. Anyway,
fucking MTA.
So I got down to Queens finally, and then I had to walk the half mile or whatever, and was hating my life and fucking kind of having a panic attack. And so I just threw myself into the middle of her talking to her son. That's where I came into the movie. All of that to say that. But
immediately like, this kid sucks.
Yeah.
Not to shame you for your transit issues, that can happen to anybody, but it's important, I think, to know this movie is built on repetition, right? So if you're missing the first attempt at it, it's repetition doesn't mean anything the second time you see it through, and then maybe by the third you pick it up. This is why I'm curious how it worked to you once you went back and saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of it was a weird feeling of like almost familiarity. Like it's not like I saw anything new within that 15 minutes. And I've watched a bunch of clips and like, of the making of and all that stuff too. So it's not like I felt like I was seeing anything new for the first time, but it hammered home the repetition like inherently involved in it, which, it is the foundation that the rest of the movie is built on, which then has to crumble for the movie to work. So I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get that, that in. Like, I kind of felt like I came in at a more frantic moment, I guess.
But I just think the point is that, what her great accomplishment here is not just like, ooh, she's making people stare at a screen for 3 minutes straight with nothing happening. She's building these blocks that, then pay off once you've gone around it a couple times. And that is, to me, comparing that to Citizen Kane, it makes Citizen Kane look like a TV episode. It's like very conventional compared to that. To say I'm going to do this with an audience to make the meaning, as opposed to 3-act structure, normal plot points, this kind of thing. That is, to me, what sets this movie apart and makes it so good.
I also think it's interesting watching that interview with her talking about her mother, and for her to be like, oh well, people who in Europe of that generation, right? Like, they know what they're going to do at 12, and then they have it scheduled for 12:05, and then so it's not even just that she's breaking, because I think about schedules in terms of hours, right? Like, if I'm doing something, I'm like, oh well, I do this at 12, and then I have this at 1. I never really think about it in terms of minutes. And for her to kind of break it down in terms of minutes, like, well, someone has to be doing something at 12, someone has to be doing something at 12:05, someone has to be doing something, at 1:15. You know what I mean? Like, whatever those minutes breakdowns are, you really realize how much time needs to get filled and how much people have to come up with things to fill it.
And how tightly she's gripped to every little thing. The fact that she can boil the potatoes, go fuck the guy, and come back and they're perfectly ready most of the time. That's, that's
all right. Let's get this happening. I have 14 minutes, and then I got to go check out some potatoes.
Right.
Set your clock to his refractory period.
Yeah. It's gonna.
Which is why the sequel is her fighting Sling Blade, and he's trying to get her to try French fried potatoes, and she's like, no, I want you to try this fucking this roast, and one of them has to win out in the end.
She even said, that's another funny line. She's like, I guess I could have made mashed potatoes, but we're having that tomorrow. She can't even depart from the menu that she's planned.
Exactly.
Well, but then you have the other woman that clearly doesn't have a schedule the same way, that comes in and is like, I did not know what to eat, so I went to the butcher and I was standing in line, and then I wanted to know what the next person in front of me, and I just ordered whatever she ordered, but I did not like it. Like, you have that,
and she gets veal, and she's like, yeah, we don't even like veal. That's the terminus of that story.
And she has to remember where she left her kid.
Veal?
Her kid's crying. She has to remember which neighbor she left her kids.
A whole different movie going on down the road. Yeah,
that also kind of resonates with the theme of like the women who don't really know who they are without serving the family. This woman doesn't even know what to order at the butcher. She's grappling to make meaning out of her butcher order too.
This woman is clueless.
But actually, I already told you, Forrest, that I think my pitch for the sequel is better. It's the trial of Jeanne Dielman, where we pick up, she's been arrested, and we have to have on the stand all the people that we've seen throughout the first movie telling, like, well, how was she when you saw her? Well, her hair was messed up, and like her son has to testify, and he's a hostile witness.
Her button was unbuttoned, and I said, fix it. I came back later. The button was still undone.
Yeah,
this is madness, I tell you.
Every seamstress in town testifies to when she was there and all this. I think that would be great if somebody wants to take that on.
Gripping courtroom drama.
Yeah.
I want you have like Ice Cube get involved as like the prosecutor, like Law and Order SVU style.
Ice-T.
Or Ice-T, yeah. Ice-T.
Don't insult the Ice Americans.
Someone with ice. I don't know. This movie's on ice, right?
Look, all I know is it's got to be someone with ice in the name. Don't care which one. There's only a couple.
Get me one of the ice.
Get ice.
Give me one of the ices. Stat.
Vanilla Ice. Are you available?
I would qualify for that demand. Yeah. Be like, wait, not you. No. Yeah. Do we want to do the letterbox one later here?
Yeah, we can do that in a second.
Good.
Well, before you go into that, I just want to offer that, Conan, I thought we were going to get in the ring about your suggestion that the movie could have been shorter. Did you want to let that lie, or?
I mean, I think I said what I need to say, which is that I think the movie could have been shorter. But I think also that for the time period that came out, the length being what it is absolutely is the point, because to see something like this, you had to go to a place, you had to go to a movie theater to see it, where you sit down with an audience, and in order for you to dip out of it, you literally have to like leave the building, which is considered gauche, as Forrest just did literally right now.
Well, plenty of people left the screen than we were at, that's for sure.
So it makes sense at the time. I think that I think you can get what you need to do to get that lived experience and fire up the empathy machine for Jeanne Dielman and what she's going through. And you could do it, like, you could easily cut an hour from it. Absolutely. 100%. But that said, it's a different experience. So it's not the art that she wanted to present.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious what you meant. You said that in your review by empathy machine. Tell me more about.
Well, because the idea is the whole point of the movie is to like get this sort of quasi lived experience of like this person like doing all this stuff. Why are they doing this? Like how long have they been doing it? It's almost inconsequential in the fact that you're placed along with them. You're doing a ride along with her the entire time that she's doing all this stuff. I think absolutely 100% audiences today, as long as the thing is skillfully done, which this undoubtedly is, can get on board with that quicker than they could back in the day. And that's something based upon the fact that we live in an ADD society. So people have less time to engage with people to, just you got to get them to like and subscribe so soon.
This is my society, baby. ADHD.
Yeah, but I don't know if that means that people are able to actually get with something, as you say, like empathy sooner. I think they just neglect it entirely. Like I don't know what the evidence is that people are doing anything other than getting a shallower experience of these things more quickly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not, whether it's be shallower or more in depth, it's a different experience. It's a different experience to have it be shorter. I think as a film, it might benefit more from being shorter, just from the daunting runtimes. Keeps the kind of people that are going to be kept away from daunting runtimes.
Oh yeah, that's a commercial consideration that I agree with. Obviously, it's keeping itself from being screened, and it's daunting in that way. Yes, but
I think the people that are engaging with it, because if you think about who's engaging with basically art house films in this day and age, are going to be people that are really into movies. You're going to be more inclined to get into it quicker and deeper than it would when you're like, what's this? It's a movie about like a housewife? What? Why would I care about this? Sure, that kind of just like, and I hate to say non-informed, because of course it's informed, but it's not instant information. It's not like,
but that's the whole point. That's the whole genius of it. Like, at what point do you alter it and you basically just destroy what it's actually about?
Well, there's a fine line to it, and that's as you should well know, that's the art of editing, isn't it? But like
I actually showed this in my editing class, and a kid almost wanted to fight me. So yeah.
but what I'm saying is that like if in days of yore, it being number one on Sight and Sound magazine on Twitter, which people like, what's Twitter? Let alone like what's number one on a list of something they've never heard of. But the idea of that information moving so quickly, oh, what's this thing that I've never heard of with this very long name? That's going to be something that there's a certain enticement to it, like because there's a certain enticement in nostalgia for things that never were, or nostalgia for things that are unknown at this moment in time. Now, the thing is, it's the way it is. It's fantastic. It's the piece of art that it's meant to be, and it sits very nicely in the pantheon. I'm just saying that the same stuff could have been accomplished with less time, but probably not then. Now it could be, but now it would be a totally different movie because, again, there's different isms now, like that she didn't want to be a part of anyway in the first place. But there's different isms that are now, and it would come fraught with different context as well. So as a piece of art, it's going to be intrinsically tied to the time, but also timeless as well. I mean, I did really look. I don't give that many 5-star reviews out, frankly. Like that's something that and I used to be even more hard ass about it. I look back at some of the old stuff that I rated and be like, oh, I gave that a 3. Jesus, I love that movie. But it's not that I think that this is bad. I think this is an awesome movie. It's just that it's a bit of a Mount Everest for people for a lot of reasons. But I personally think that the stuff that this film does well and the stuff this film does that no other film does could be accomplished with a shorter runtime. I'm not saying I would want that role to figure out, but anyone should.
Let me just respond this way because I hear what you're saying, but there's two parts of it that I think are worth at least just offering a pushback on slightly.
Sure.
To me, this is a movie that requires a lot of you, but it's like saying, well, when I go work out, these weights are so heavy, I could just work out better if I had light weights, but you're not getting strong. You know what I'm saying? You're actually. So to ask that this be easier to apprehend would be giving back the whole, not the whole, but a very, to me, integral part of what makes this so valuable is the challenging nature of it. Because I am also a very ADD person. I have difficulty paying attention. Reading has always been difficult. I have to be, whatever, set and setting.
You and Jeanne Dielman, reading. She does not like to sit there and read. That was
not at the table anyway. But it's the value of eventually coming around to getting on that vibe is, I think, the greatest part of it. Apart from the ideas, you could give all the ideas in a way in a shorter movie. You could get all these comments about women and about society and about whatever you want to call it, all these sociological issues. But you wouldn't get the experiential effect if it was even 5 minutes shorter because you are. It's about not just.
I disagree with that. I think you could.
It's because it's only. Here's the other part. It's not only about what you're comprehending. It's about actually using your eyes and your ears in a different way. It's literally like a workout for the senses, and you could make the weight lighter, but then you wouldn't be getting as great a benefit from the workout, if you will.
You wouldn't be getting those artistic gains with Z's.
Yeah. Seriously, you want to get swole in the art brain,
I hear what you're saying. I respect what you're saying, and I do not agree with what you're saying.
This culture, you're right, is working faster and faster and faster. But isn't that something to be fought? Isn't that something to be lamented? Aren't we losing something by our inability to have shorter attention spans? I feel that way personally, and I work to, I fight. I'm watching an episode of Star Trek 1 minute and Jeanne Dielman the next. I'm trying to make a space for that, to work that muscle out because it's so, I'm looking at my phone even at a 15-minute commercial.
I mean, you could fully just immerse yourself in it and become Andy and, have like 6 things going on screens at the same time. And
I normally do, so this is even more, I think.
So for me, why is watching something like Until the End of the World a treat and watching the Batman movie torture? I don't know. Other than the fact that one's a good movie and one's the Batman, but
one has got something useful in it. The other one's just a piece of junk. But
the other one's got Robert Pattinson.
But it's this is also somebody who defends everything, everywhere, all at once, which is sort of giving into that aesthetic. It is the let's meet them where they're at kind of aesthetic, and to me, that's. I don't know. To me, that's like the road to idiocracy on a certain level.
Well, but I'm not saying cut into a 90-minute movie. Obviously, that wouldn't work.
All right. So, what's your best length? 1 hour less?
I'm saying you could drop an hour from it and get across everything. But I also say that nobody should do it, and I wouldn't want that job because it's a piece of art.
Like I said,
and it works as a piece of art because it is like, fuck you, 3 hours, 34 minutes or whatever it is. It's like, wow, okay.
But I also, great. I like I said before, I could think of a dozen ways to ruin this movie, and shortening it is one of them. But if you saw a movie like Satan's Tango, that's 7 hours, and honestly, by the 3.5 hours in the middle, I was like, I can't wait to see what happens next. So there are movies that are 90 minutes long that I feel are interminable. No movie is ever too long or too short. It's only like you're not vibing with it. You know what I mean? So to me, to say a movie is too long means there's something about it that you aren't with, that you don't like or think is good.
I mean, I also just think in this case, the length kind of is the point. Like, a lot of people have talked about how the length is the point.
That's what she said.
But like the banality of it, you have to be immersed in the banality of it in order to appreciate the end and kind of work your way.
You can get that done with you don't need 4.5 hours for that.
But see, and that's the other thing too, is that I think it's a misnomer to think that it's all banality. Because the monologue she's going through, there's things happening. The drama is just on such a microscopic level that it requires that attention to detect it. Otherwise, it does seem like banality and nothing's happening.
What I'm saying with banality is the routine aspect of it, right? Like that really is the length. It is the fact that you're sitting through her actual routine over the course of 3 days. I mean, hey, they could make it a 3-day movie if they really wanted to, and you could see everything she does
real
in
time,
that entirety of it. I mean, a third of it would be her sleeping, and then we could have Conan be like, you could have cut those parts. I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
I don't know. You could have.
Her sleep acting was so good.
But remember when she had like some kind of tussle that she was like rolling around? How would you miss that in the movie?
No, but I mean, like, spider, it was amazing.
She got up. She sleepwalked. She sleepwalked down the road, and I think she was sleepwalking. We followed her with a camera. I don't know where she went.
But what we're talking about is okay. So moving back to Until the End of the World. Wim Wenders' original idea was to have that be 22 hours long or something like that, which is. I love that movie, but I'm like, I'm glad somebody talked you out of that because that would have been terrible.
Well, what we need is for Chantal Akerman to have come out with a clip that was like, I could have made the movie 20 hours long, and then you'd be like, oh, I think it's a good length. 3.5 hours.
Where's the director's cut of this movie?
I mean, but I think that we're talking about two things, which is working as a transgressive piece of art and working as, one of the number one, like, best films of all time. Right. And so as a work of art, I think it's got to be exactly what the artist intended. The artist intended for it to be exactly that long. And that is how long it should be. Brazil, another one of my favorites. If you've ever seen like the edit that they tried to show on television, I mean, it's like one of the worst travesties you've ever seen because it changes the entire movie and not for the better, I might add. And that's not the worst example of that. But again, one can admire the artistry of something and also be like, cool, there's about 50 movies I think off the top of my head that I would consider better movies than Jeanne Dielman, as far as my own personal ranking, which is an arbitrary subjective line of thought anyway, making a list of like what art is better than others. Well, this is something I find more enjoyable. Is RoboCop better than Jeanne Dielman? I don't know. In some ways, I guess. I don't know. Like I like them both. They're great.
I think it's about appreciating what this movie is trying to do. I don't think I'd sit through this movie again, and I don't think that I'm going to be like, hey, like I think this is the greatest movie of all time, for my own taste, but appreciating what something's trying to do. I'm not someone that necessarily goes for like avant-garde stuff if I have the choice. You know what I mean? Like, if I have the choice of like a movie that's conventionally narrated and scripted versus something avant-garde that I have to actually like challenge myself to watch. I mean, I'm glad I did with this, but like, that's not necessarily what I would put that probably in my top 100 of things that I'd watch next again.
I mean, one of my favorite directors is David Lynch, right? I'm not afraid of like challenging art. Like and that is exactly what this is. And it's meant to challenge it. Challenges in different ways than it did back then, which is what makes it
especially if you
a
watch
very
it
successful piece of art.
In a theater and can't turn down the volume when that baby starts crying.
Right. Precisely. But I mean, I hope that makes sense, Matthew, as far as, because I think there's, again, what I a lot of like you hear people talk about this film, which now we are, thankfully, it's in the conversation. You people just bitching about the length. It's like, no, you missed the point entirely. No, I got the point. I like the point. I feel like successful at the point, but I'm thinking about them in terms of two different things. As a film going experience, I think you could have a version of this that was shorter. But I'm kind of, there isn't one.
How can you disprove the negative in the sense of like, how do you know that we would be, and maybe this didn't happen for you, but tuned into these little minutiae things if it was compressed? Like it's. Again, I don't know if you.
I'm not saying like run it at 2 times speed or anything. I mean, like.
Yeah, but it's not clear to me that makes any sense. That you could say that it would have the same experiential effect at a different length. And again, it's you said like transgressive. Like in a way, I think every great work of art should be transgressive. It should upset your apple cart in some way, right? It should test you. And again, I'm not out there watching only movies that test me. Like I said, I watched plenty of crap TV. I watched plenty of entertaining movies. I love RoboCop and so on and so forth. But when we're talking the greats, a movie like Citizen Kane feels like entertainment compared to this, right? It's so much easier to apprehend. It carries you away. It's like you're involved in a very easy way. It's almost spoon feeding you compared to this.
But Jeanne Dielman makes
valuable
as far as filmmaking goes. Like I once said, like one of my favorite own personal quotes is that when I saw Stalker, I said Tarkovsky makes Lynch feel like Michael Bay. Exactly. which I stand by, and I think you could say like the same thing that like it's like Chantal Akerman doing Jeanne Dielman. It makes Orson Welles' Citizen Kane look like James Cameron. Like, but
exactly.
But again, I'm talking about
review you could give it.
Yeah,
Charles Foster Kane could have fit on that boat or on that door. You know what I mean?
The Barbie movie is going to be my Citizen Kane.
On that sled.
Right.
The thing too, I think James Cameron's actually a good comparison because like
I think so too. That's why I made it.
Yeah, no. Just because like
I didn't say it lightly.
Is not. I'm not saying it's not art, but it's not art in the same way. It created the language of the genre. It's like looking at Will Eisner stuff. Will Eisner stuff's kind of pedestrian today, but if you back in the 40s when he was creating that visual language, he was breaking new ground, and that's what Citizen Kane did, and we can all understand that, and that's what that did. But that's not trying to challenge you in the same way this is. This is trying to master the art of storytelling as a film, and that's a whole other ballgame.
It's achieving a different artistic goal too, or different artistic goals.
I also look at it
gains,
but it's like difficulty of the dive, right? When they dive, it's like you could get a 10 on an easy dive, great. But even if you get a 9 on one of these really complicated dives, that to me is a greater achievement.
Look, I still watch every M. Night Shyamalan movie, even though I dislike far more of them than I like. But what I appreciate about that guy is he always takes big swings. I mean, like, I'm glad I'm talking baseball because his batting average is low. But he takes big swings, and I appreciate that way more than someone just doing the hacky thing of, like,
giving you him on the show.
Formulaic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, look at that Star Wars movie, right? Where it's like, hey, idiots, you want this? Great. Here's like the thing you all asked for. I'm like, well, this is terrible. But
then people will still bitch.
And then, of course, they're going to. People love complaining. That's like, they
people
love
are
it.
complaining about Ryan Gosling as Ken. I'm like,
I think it's brilliant.
Oh, they made Star Wars woke now.
Did you see what A24 just put out, this statement about like asking the audience to not you know what I'm talking about? Let me see if I can find that. And this is coming from A24.
Not to like judge the film until it gets something.
Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, they're judging it based on the memes, which is if they're more modern.
Like, let me see where
I hear somebody be like, I'm already sick of the Barbie movie and I don't know anything about it yet. I'm like, great,
but
you're doing a wonderful job.
It reflects this customer is always right kind of attitude towards pop culture and towards art, which is totally displays.
Yeah, no, man, the customer is frequently wrong.
They said, please stop seeing movies with your own preconceived scenarios and plot points already entrenched in your minds. Strap yourselves into your seats and let the writer and director take you on their ride. In the long run, you will appreciate the experiences you have regarding cinema. I mean, it's
like people are already like, I know what Joker 2 is about. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, well, I saw all these cops around Lady Gaga and they completely ignored her and focused on Joaquin Phoenix. That means something. And I'm like, well, wait and see.
Social media was a completely different way of approaching the experience. Like, it's like, give me what I want and don't depart from what I want, as opposed to going into it saying, like, show me something I've never seen before, please. And even if it's a little weird, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I could have my mind blown. And that's, and I get it. Sometimes I just want to watch an episode of Star Trek that I've seen 100 times to have the same comforting experience. Fine, I get that. Sure. Or to see it rearranged in some different surface way, but essentially the same, but make room, or isn't there a space for a really weird thing?
Just like there should be space, watch me do this now, to a movie that you quite enjoy, to have a critique of it that doesn't say this is a better movie if it's shorter, but to bring up the fact that versus the art of it being an artistic statement versus being a film doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Just for me, it not only isn't the number one film of all time,
I think it means
not even top 50.
I think it means you didn't enjoy it.
Or articulate why you hated the film. Don't
I got
say,
4 stars to tell you
otherwise.
This
is the worst film in the world. Okay, explain why.
Yeah, believe me, if I don't like something, you'll hear about it. Trust me.
I got you, stars, right here. Oh.
I mean, and actually, usually if I really don't like something, I won't say anything. I'll just be very silent about it. But like, no, I think it's awesome. I think Chantal Akerman's... Look, and I said, taking back to Wim Wenders, we're going to do Wings of Desire next week, right? Is that next week?
So. Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's Wim Wenders' best film, his best movie.
Definitely.
But Until the End of the World is my favorite artistic statement of what he did.
Oh, yeah.
So, go ahead, Matthew, sorry.
No, I was just going to say Paris, Texas is 1A with that.
Paris, Texas is fantastic as well. And kind of exists in its own world and own category. But this isn't the Wim Wenders podcast. Although it's reaching Wim Wenders' length without getting the letterbox.
I just want to say one last thing. I don't know if we're wrapping up or anything, but
we just got 2 more. We got 2 more bits and final thoughts to do.
We got like 30 more
okay, all right. Do the bit then. Do the bit.
Thank you, Matthew. I will. Letterboxd, of course, a place for film lovers, just like people on this panel right now, to talk with and to each other about the movies they love, the movies they didn't love, the movies that their friends thought that they didn't love because they had mild critiques of. And of course, all of this is it's an open source democracy, bottom up. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world. And of course, for the purposes of this bit, that's all best expressed succinctly. Keep it succinct. Keep it ADD, folks.
Only way I know how, baby.
Working in your tight 5 in front of the brick wall of the Comedy Store. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Jeanne Dielman. Let's go. Chantal Akerman could crash a plane into a building, but Christopher Nolan could never drop a spoon or overcook a potato.
Boom. That is deep. I love that.
That is deep. Good job, Adam.
So
deeper
true.
than anything Christopher Nolan's come up with.
Personally, I was hoping for more nihilistic fucking.
You don't really see the fucking except in that last like they close the door to you for that part, which is something that I kind of found fascinating. Like when she's actually
y'all just wanted to watch her fuck.
Well,
I could watch J2EL for that.
You sure can. Yeah. I may or may not have paused halfway through this and watched 2 episodes of Sexy Beasts with my family.
That's honest.
As an aside, I did not. I thought they were talking about the movie Sexy Beast. No, there's a TV show called Sexy Beasts, and I looked it up, and it is something to behold. Let's put it that way. No one will be admitted during the potato peeling scene.
Oh, thankfully for Forrest, that's not true.
Well, there was no. They were real lax. They were real lax in the security department. Like they're supposed to check your bags. And I brought in like a thing of water and 2 energy drinks, and nobody.
He brought in potatoes to peel in solidarity.
Potatoes.
There are only 2 types of people in this world: Jeanne Dielman on day 2 and Jeanne Dielman on day 3.
That one's awesome.
I'm day 3, all the way, baby.
Ethan Coburn, that's a good one. Boring. 10 out of 10.
This one's my favorite.
This is This one is truly, going into the dialectical reasons for this movie's success.
Christina peeking out from behind the letterbox one-liners is my new favorite thing, by the way. The portal scene in Avengers Endgame wants what the moment with Sylvain tells Jean that she missed a button has.
Awesome.
Right, they wish. Hey guys, thank you for watching my domestic housework ASMR video. My name is Jeanne Dielman. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this.
That makes me totally sad and also totally happy.
I follow a lot of ASMR. So man, I need my noise machine. I need my room to be dark. I got ASMR in the background. My mom was like, you have a lot to go and take a trazodone. I have a whole
lot going on.
I sleep with a fan on me since I was like 8 years old.
Yes,
I mean, a big part of this movie though is the fact that she's trying to deflect from her trauma, from her personal experience or whatever. I kind of find it fascinating that now that we have streaming and like streaming services and movies, like anything you want really available to you, her routine in this, right? Like, would a movie like this be made today? They'd just be like, well, why isn't she just watching something on TV or something? You know what I mean? Like, or why isn't she distracting herself in this way or this way or this way? Whereas in this movie, she has no real way to distract herself.
We're seeing all the ways. We're seeing all the ways. They're just not the ways we have today.
No, but what I mean is like throwing yourself into something else, like a TV show or like like all the ways that we distract ourselves on a constant basis.
Right.
Not existing to somebody of that generation.
She would just be listening to a podcast as she went on her errands.
I mean, let's be honest. Making meatloaf was just like Candy Crush.
Well, I'm saying you don't have to really hear your inner monologue, and assumably she is hearing some kind of inner monologue that's of her routine that we're not hearing, but she's hearing. Like you don't have to ever actually hear yourself think if you don't want to. This day and
we
age.
have more ways to stuff it down these days.
Yeah. She could have been. She also, I was gonna say she could have also become an alcoholic, but.
Well, she could also be a webcam girl. Okay, go on.
In which forgetting to turn off a light switch feels like an absolute travesty.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Well,
4, 5, 6,
according
7, 8,
to according to my mom with the electric bill, because we're getting price gouged right now, it is an absolute travesty when you forget to turn off.
Oh, really? Ours is set up where you can pay like a certain amount, like during like a certain amount of month.
Level billing plan in the house
where you don't pay, and I'm like, awesome.
Oh, we're having this big problem with Central Hudson, the electric company, where they're price gouging. So like our bill went up like 900% 1 month.
Damn.
What the fuck?
Yeah, but they're like the state, like they're claiming that our representatives are suing Central Hudson because of that, but like nothing's ever happened, and they're all bought by the power company anyway. So, but we elected a socialist on that platform for the first time ever.
Okay, next.
All right, can I get out my bit now, or are we gonna?
No one was stopping you,
other than the production. Well, that escalated quickly.
Famous last words.
Was it quickly though? I don't know. I disagree with one word.
The end, it escalates. Yeah.
The escalation, I think, is fast, but getting there was quite the journey.
Right.
Well, that escalated slowly would maybe be the better one. Sorry, Mikey, we got notes for you.
I would say that escalated at the exact right pace it needed to.
Yeah, exactly. The kid alone drove me insane. No reading at the table.
Yes.
Okay, Jean. We see you.
I mean, but what's the alternative? They just eat in morbid silence, right? Like today, there'd be a TV or a radio or something on, right? I grew up watching TV while we ate. We never just sat at the table. There was a TV on constantly, a little TV on the kitchen counter.
Oh man,
So
when Star Trek was on, and
Star Trek was on.
Yep. Oh,
Jeopardy! The point that I was trying to make about whether this movie could be, would be made today. I mean, it wouldn't, but like she has so much things she could drown out her, Holocaust thoughts with these things.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Drown out your Holocaust thoughts with Star Trek. Indeed. Those are the letterbox one-liners for Jeanne Dielman. Please follow the show. That's Widowed Mantis over there. Criterion 720p, 1020. 1080. Sorry, I blew the joke. Movie Night Extra. He's representing the show. And I am Day 3, Conan Neutron at Conan Neutron, all over that business. Watching the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fare. All that kind of stuff. Follow the Criterion Challenge along with me if you dare. J. Andrew Button Quest. Button Quest.
That's Jeanne Dielman's Button Quest.
He's on the Button Quest, people. No child will move during Jeanne Dielman on Ice, but maybe you'll be moved by Andy's great unearthing of the craziest movies you ever knew existed and the weirdest stuff that you did not know, but maybe you want to know more about. So follow him right about now too.
Do you though?
I don't know. It's not for me to judge. I'm just calling balls and strikes, people. I'm just attempting to exit the bit with honor and dignity. Christina Oaks, Cosmopolitics over there, doesn't speak French. She speaks German. Every once in a while, she speaks letterboxed. Not that often though. Maybe she'll come back. I don't know. Maybe if you clap hard and believe in fairies, maybe she'll come back to the platform.
Maybe when Barbie comes out.
She's so anti-letterbox that she left. You know, the episode we had Slim on. She
did. That's true. Yeah, that's right. She heard he was coming. I'm like, I'm out. I ain't going on this.
Yeah,
one.
that's exactly what happened.
Matthew, film guy, of course, the OG Letterboxd. Actually, maybe the one that I heard about the platform in the first. I think so. Langdon Boom, please follow him. He's he throws it down. You can also join his class, but that's for the bits. He is peeling potatoes though. So that's important to know. Button Quest, take us away with the plugs, please.
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you can never miss a video. And the big ask is watch us to the end so you can help us find movie fans out there, and you get to hear a great Conan Neutron song. I hope I said that right. I think I did. We're good. We're also on Twitch, so do the Twitch things.
You actually you like, did you just expect to get like critiqued? Because you did that fine. It was fine.
Yeah, no, I thought I tripped over some words there, but
I feel like you're in day 3.
I could have trimmed it. Like
it was too long.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay,
there we go. There's the bit. There's the bit, folks. Anyways,
good. Topical.
Yes. We're also on Twitch, so if you can, throw us a sub. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. That helps us out a great deal. Doesn't cost you a penny. So please go ahead and do that if you can. We are on social media sites. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So please find us and follow us there. You can interact with the show hosts, and who knows what's going to happen. I don't. Just like these plugs.
Stuck the landing.
There you go.
Yeah, this is why we're
unpredictable. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah.
No, but we do have a Patreon, and with that Patreon,
we definitely know what's happening there. You're giving us money. We appreciate that.
Yeah, you're giving us money, and you're getting access to our past after parties because they're up there forever. And yeah, it's after parties are a lot of fun. If you don't always get to join us live, you get to see the craziness recorded later. But if you don't pay us money, you don't get to see it, and it's that simple.
So go pound sand.
Are we doing one of those today?
I don't know. I feel like this has become a game time decision, and we're already like 2:20. No promises on my end. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In fact, my only promise might be that I'm going to go lay down after this.
My neck is killing me.
Zach.
My potato peeling hand is numb.
Widow Mantis, are we doing an after party? No, we're not doing an after party, are we? I think
no. I guess not. I mean, I definitely want to do one for Wings of Desire, though. We've gone. I mean, this is 2 hours and 20 minutes already.
Yeah, it's enough. It's enough.
Yeah.
We're only an hour shorter than the movie, so we.
Well, we got 30 more minutes left of Annie's plug, so.
Yeah,
exactly. The way we're going. Yeah.
In fact, we're up to Conan Neutron right now. Who's
the best part of the plugs? My stuff.
Yeah, which I think you have
the
tour
busiest
dates
person
coming up,
on
right?
this
podcast. I'm sorry. There was so much going on. I lost track of what's happening. What's that?
Yeah, you have tour dates coming up, correct?
Oh yeah. Nothing. I'll announce those next week, though. We'll talk about those next week.
Okay. All right. I knew they were coming up. I just
there's a New York show. There's a Louisville show. Like it's. I'm gonna have it in a nice, neat manner for you, so you don't have to.
Excellent. So look forward to upcoming tour dates from Conan, which is a big deal. But to also
big deal for me.
Yeah. But there's also a Protonic Reversal.
There is coming up this week. Mike Moraski from Still Pull Bathtub. Milk Cult, Cassette Prophet is his newest thing. He also was the head of visual effects for the Lord of the Rings movies by this guy, the guy that did Dead Alive. You guys heard of these movies?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. And if you're into video games, he's done all of the sound and sound design for these Left 4 Dead games that all the kids love too. So interesting cat. One of my favorite guitar players. Album. Yep. Yeah, he's exactly. Yeah. Boner Records alumni. Mike Moraski. And we actually did a first part that there was supposed to be a second part of very soon, and it's been about a year and a half. But yeah, Mike's great. So it should be an interesting talk.
That sounds great. And of course, there's a Caterwall coming up. So get your tickets for that.
There is indeed. 45 days away, I think.
Yeah. That looks huge.
It sounds like it's going to be a blast because there's some great bands, including Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. And
playing, yes.
Action Chief.
Action Chief was a rare Action Chief appearance. And Action Chief's own Joe Cannon coming on next week.
And a band that's just called
the Resurrectionists will be there.
Yes.
Is Surprise Secret Band the name of a band, or is it?
It is not a name of a band.
Okay.
Cool. I almost wanted to put not a band.
Yeah,
but it's just a band we haven't announced yet.
Yo, it would be mad funny to call your band that though, and like every time you play somewhere, everyone's like, "Whoa, who's it gonna be?" And it's just like, "Oh, these guys that I don't know anything." All right.
They're just called Surprise Secret Band. They just thought it was a good band name. Calvin Walt City was actually going to play this year, but they didn't. That is notable because Matthew is good friends with Jason Pace, as am I as well, who did the Matthew Film Guy theme song Majority Report.
That is his claim to fame. That is his biggest claim to fame.
It really is his biggest claim to fame. Ian from Calvin Walt City has actually been on this very show twice.
Yep. He's a letterbox.
Stalker and Dead or Alive, which could not be more different movies, but
he stayed right on this floor once. So there you go.
There you go. Ian Miller, good friend of the show, Ian Miller. Calvin City is not playing though, but 55 other freaking bands are playing. So yeah, good value, people. If you like noisy stuff and heavy stuff, then
yeah. And if you can't wait for Caterwall to hear some Conan Neutron, you can always go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com and order some albums. Get digital downloads, get it on vinyl, get it on compact disc. Not available on cassette or 8-track.
That I'm aware of, no. not by my hand, that's for sure.
There's like this 8-track.
These kids love 8-tracks these days. It's crazy.
Back alley 8-track maker.
Yeah, just hey kid, you want an 8-track? Yeah.
Yeah, I know cassettes have made a weird comeback, and I don't quite.
They have.
Because the fidelity's not there, but like records I get because of the fidelity.
Yeah, cassettes. I don't know. People want something cheap to sell at the merch table. I don't quite get it.
I just paid top dollar for a retro reproduction of Pavement's demo tape that they sold.
They reproduce it?
Yeah,
it
looks like the handwritten everything. Yeah,
that's kind of clever.
Yeah,
well, that's a nostalgia thing, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to it. It's just going on the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I got Pavement's first demo tape. Yeah, we all have that.
We all do with $30.
Exactly. How $35? Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Was it $35? Really?
It was $30. It was $30.
Oh, good for those dudes.
All with the shipping.
I did an album cover for an 80s cover album, and we put it out on cassette and made it look like one of those early cassettes. Oh, nice!
Look at that. Yeah,
you know the early cassettes where they had put the entire album cover in a box, and then below it they print out the.
I like that they have the fake branding too. That's good.
Yeah, it's what they sent away. It's like their demo to get signed.
Yeah. Just like the tapes used to sell at Tower Records in Berkeley.
Yeah. I'm not even opening.
I love it.
Yeah. Sorry,
that's fantastic.
Handwriting and all.
But yeah, please get your Conan Neutron music.
Exactly. We're still in my plug somehow. Yeah, I don't know.
I was trying to help.
Yeah, buy my stuff. In summation, buy my stuff. Thank you.
Yes. And when you're done buying Conan stuff, check out Christina on Twitch.
Yes. And tomorrow's a big day for me because I'm being interviewed by Professor Joshua Atkinson, who is a professor at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. He's contacted me, Hassan Piker, so many of other Twitch streamers, and as many that reach out to him like myself or will reach back. We're all going to be interviewed about our Twitch channels and our communities. So I'm really excited for tomorrow.
Wow, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you can also when she's not dog sitting, she's on Twitch.
I'll be streaming after the interview, so that'll be fun.
I love that. That's it. Did you hear that was in her intro, Matthew? Like when she's not.
Well, because I did the. All right,
where are you?
I dog sit whenever I'm not house cleaning
what
streaming.
part of the country are you in?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
It'd be a bit of a commute for you.
That'd be some walk though for those dogs.
Well, a lot of them have backyards. So
that'd be like, what was the Great Adventure, the Great Escape? What was it called? With the two dogs and the cat, and they're running around trying to get home.
Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound. There we go. The Great Escape. It's definitely not the Great Escape.
Steve McQueen.
That's what the dogs dug their way out of a concentration camp.
Is there a movie called The Great Adventure? I feel like there should be a movie called The Great Adventure. Probably is.
Probably is. I don't know.
There's an amusement park.
But when you're done watching, Christina,
it has to be from the 1920s or something, or it doesn't count though. The Great Adventure.
But when you're done watching Christina on Twitch, please buy her coffee. Go to kofi.com/cosmopolitics. I think I got that right. I hope.
Yes.
Good. Yes, do that. Do that. Give her money.
KofiAnnan.un.
There is a movie called The Great Adventure. It is an Italian movie, and it's set during the American Gold Rush era. It's an unforgettable tale of an orphan boy and his wild dog who must battle against the Yukon wilderness and human greed to help save a frontier town.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Who can
Jack Palance is in it. Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. Answer my own question. Throw it on.
And Matthew, you got I heard you on the Majority Report talk about a movie you were working on.
Well, the movie that I just edited just came out at South by Southwest, directed by Brittany Snow, and we're hoping that comes out at some point soon. It got a lot of good reviews. It's called Parachute, so people can look out for that. They can go see some of the other movies I edited, Black Bear, a horror movie called Abandoned, another one called Detonator. But really, if you really want to get the full Matthew Film Guy experience, you can go follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd, and then come take my class. I do a film appreciation class where I show you all these same kind of difficult movies like Jeanne Dielman, although I don't show anything over about 2.5 hours for commercial reasons, business reasons. But you can come hang out. We show you a movie on a link. You watch it on your own, and then you join about 15 to 20 really cool people. A lot of people from the Majority Report world, a lot of older people who were in my original version of it, which was a senior citizens continuing education class. And we have like a 2-hour discussion where I haven't seen the movie either. So we're all like getting into it for the first time and figuring it out. And it's always cool. It's always a lot of fun. And
you're going to run out of movies at some point.
Nope. I literally have a watch list of like 2,000 movies. So I don't think that's ever going to really happen. But you can actually go on my Letterboxd. One of my lists on Letterboxd is all the movies that I have shown. Yeah. And you can get a sense of the kind of stuff that I pick. It's not any one country, any one time. I mean, the only real common factor is that I haven't seen it. I've been hearing that it's great, or it's the work by a director who else other work I like. We did watch the Rendezvous Savannah there, but we go all over the place, and it's never anything less than interesting conversation. So even if you don't like the movie, which usually you do. So yeah, come hang out with me there if you want, or just come chat me up on Letterboxd or Twitter. And thanks for having me, guys. This was really awesome. I have a fun time with you all the time, and it was wonderful. And thanks for taking my request. I feel like maybe I've pushed you guys to do this movie, but I really appreciate
pushing ourselves.
Putting yourself.
I wish I had been able to hang out and get a drink and talk about it afterwards, and I didn't have to try to rush for a fucking bus like an hour after the fucking movie.
Yeah, that was a bummer, but there will be more opportunities. And actually, if you're in New York, they're doing the series still at the Museum of the Moving Image movies, Jeanne Dielman and Its Roots. So I just saw an Agnes Varda movie that was incredible. Oh, cool. Also a 5-star movie. I think next week I'm going to go see The Central Region, which is the Michael Snow movie that she said really made her understand that she could do a movie this way. And that movie has no plot and no story. He just goes up on a mountain with a camera on a gimbal, and apparently it's breathtaking, and it's also 3 hours long. So Conan, come join me for that.
Well, we're playing New York City. We haven't played New York City since 2019 at end of May. So yeah, we'll see. So
there
might be a time to do shit. Yeah,
we should definitely figure something out. But yeah, anyway, see you all there, and thanks again for having me, guys.
And any final thoughts?
Yeah, do you have any final thoughts? That was a good situation.
My final thought is this movie is unlike a lot of other movies. This is a movie that is as much about, and I'm not saying it's unique solely, but as with a lot of my favorite movies, this is a movie that's as much about what it does to you and the experience that you are having subjectively in the theater as you're watching it and being forced to try to understand it, as it is a story or a concept or a theme or an allegory in some way that it's telling you. And that is the difference, I think, that makes this not just better in degree, but in kind. It's the entire thing that it's after is something a little bit different than your average movie, which means it's much more difficult and much less pleasurable on its surface. Although I have to say, after the fourth time, this is extremely pleasurable. It has so many rewards once you're locked in. But what it does to you is, to me, the point of this movie, as much as it is what it's saying about any one thing that we could all agree on, women and politics and so on and so forth. And for that, I'm just in complete and total gratitude that this movie exists.
Okay. And getting some heat, frankly. I mean, getting some attention, you know. Let's put a fine point on it.
Yes.
Call it Michael Mann because it's getting some heat.
Yeah, that is true too. I'll say it's just a wonderful thing. When that came out on the list, my reaction was, "Oh my God, yes!" Not like, "What the fuck?" It was like,
"Oh my God, Sight and Sound is getting woke."
Yeah,
too woke.
Finally, my woke project is paying off. No, I just was like so happy that this movie that I have forced, you talk to my friends, I have forced a lot of people to come see this movie against their will. And, I'd say about 50% of them were glad about it. But it was actually a very rewarding thing to see this movie getting its due.
The other 50%, maybe you don't want to reach out to, because I don't know if they
No, they're dead to me. They're dead to me.
But yeah, Christina, final thoughts.
Yeah, what I loved about this film is how intimate and simple, surprisingly, this movie is. I did not mind the length of the film, because if I'm really into a film, I don't care how long it is, as long as I enjoy it, it's all good. But I will say that this film is a feminist film, surprisingly, in my opinion. And I do like the fact that she was like, this film is not really political or all feminist or whatever. And I do like the idea of it being, of a director not really thinking that there's this huge message behind the film. And I know that this is like one of her first films. So, I mean, I appreciate the fact that she was like 25 years old and she made like a freaking phenomenal film. And I highly recommend it.
She's such a baby when you see her in the in the documentary of making it.
Mm-hmm.
But Andy, final thoughts.
I was kind of amazed because I was the only thing I really watched from Belgium was JCVD, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he accidentally robs the bank.
The Muscles from Brussels?
Yes.
Of course.
But so
it's those two. Those are the only two movies that the country's ever produced. Actually, it's crazy.
Yes. No, which by the way is a good film too, but not the same level as this one's playing at. This is a great experience. Yeah, I remember this is my first time watching it.
I did say Jean-Claude Van Damme when she killed the guy at the end, though.
Yeah.
As you were saying.
Yeah. No, I spent an inordinate amount of time, because this is my first time watching it, during like that first day, thinking to myself, well, how does she get her Johns? Like, there's no internet. She's not been out there advertising.
I didn't think.
Was there any back pages? Like where? Yeah.
Well, what's going on here? Like,
or is it people that she knows?
That's the backstory I wanted.
I figured it was a exclusive word of mouth network.
Yeah.
But then where did the first one come from? And how did she break into the field? And you know what?
Where's that Disney Plus prequel series is what he's asking.
The Mandalorian.
Yeah, exactly. They take off their mask. You won't believe what happens next.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is like once the movie got going, I kind of stopped thinking about that and started thinking things like, why isn't there a sassy black guy narrating over this cooking scene? Because that's how I'm used to watching my cooking videos.
Oh, by the way, when it hit the Sight and Sound top movie, there was a TikTok, or I don't know if it was TikTok or Twitter challenge. I think it was TikTok, where people put up videos of themselves doing the cooking from the actual movie, and that was like a big thing for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I saw some
with like a hashtag and everything.
And did people like leave commentaries over it, like show the videos like, no, what are you doing putting Cool Whip in there? That's crazy, white people.
No,
flour, egg, breadcrumbs, not breadcrumbs, flour, egg.
You're doing it all wrong. Didn't you watch the movie? But Conan, final thoughts.
Yeah, stunningly unique work of art. It's a pioneering first in representation of the classically domestic woman, the advent of slow cinema realism, and also testing the limits of patience of the audience, which, again, being tested and challenged aren't necessarily bad things in my mind. There's a lot of interesting choices in here that lead up to, again, as we mentioned before, small moments like dropping the spoon, almost knocking over the milk, etc., that show you the titular character, Jeanne Dielman's internal conflict without ever actually telling you what's going on in her mind. There's a lot of, as mentioned, showing, not telling with that. It's a philosophical piece. It's meant to be transgressive and push boundaries. It's doing that in different ways. As I've mentioned earlier on, I think it's telling that the movie's connected with people in the modern age of lockdown and maddening routine. Something that would seem totally alien to the modern person. Something becomes very relatable, and the context of it changes. So that's a true sign of a great piece of art, and I'm really glad that we covered it. And I thought this was a really cool conversation. So there you go. All
right, and thanks so much for coming on, Matthew Film Guy. It's always great to have you. Always a good time. We'll be back next week for Wings of Desire, which should be an interesting conversation. I think that I haven't seen that, so it's two movies that I haven't seen, that this one and that one that I feel like like the
compared to Until the End of the World in Paris, Texas, it's practically Transformers. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
No, I'm saying like the two like very experimental, I think, directors back to back. So maybe this is experimental month.
Exactly.
All right.
The experiment is, will we end the show?